All right, board members, student board members, welcome. Thank you for coming. Board members, thank you for coming to our regular scheduled board meeting. I think you had an option.
Thank you for coming.
But we are ready to go. Our technology is up and running. Madam President, I'm ready to hand it off to you.
All right. I call this meeting of the Vista Unified School District regular board meeting to order at 6:44, and we will have Brandon meet us in the flag salute. Yes. To the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will call, take roll. Trustee Smithfield. Here. Trustee Vargas.
Present.
Trustee Morocco. Trustee Kelly. Here. High school trustee Brandon Burton. High school trustee Megan Taft. Here. And then the other school representatives, unfortunately, have other commitments.
They have
tonight.
sporting commitments and one is ill.
All right. I hope she gets better quickly. All right. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for being here. Before we get started, I would like to say that the board appreciates and supports stakeholder input at our meetings. Engagement by the members of the public in civic matters is a cornerstone of our democracy. Everyone should have a chance to express their opinions within the guidelines of this board and what we've established for our meetings, so that we're able to conduct the meetings effectively and efficiently. During the meeting, there will be time for the public to comment on matters that are not on the agenda. In addition, members of the public may comment on specific agenda items after I, as the board president, ask for public comment on an item. Until it is your turn to speak, or if you're here just to observe the meeting, please refrain from any behavior that prevents others from participating in the meeting or that disrupts the board's ability to conduct the business of the board. This includes any conduct that prevents members of the board, district staff, or a person making public comment from speaking. We also ask that when you are called upon, you address only the board. While we assume that members of the public intend to participate in this meeting in a civil manner, and while legitimate criticism of this board is protected speech, we will not tolerate any threats of violence made to the board members, staff, or to any other members in the public. In the event of a threat of violence, the individual will be removed from the room whenever possible and will be referred to law enforcement. And in the event that the meeting is disrupted in a manner that prevents the board from proceeding with the agenda items for the meeting, we may choose to recess the meeting until order is restored. If order cannot be restored at recess, we may choose to clear the room, move the meeting to another location where it will no longer be disrupted, or adjourn the meeting. And after that, I want to say welcome to everyone here. Although there's nothing to report from closed session. Although it's been, it's starting to feel like school board meetings are a little bit back to pre-COVID. It's always good to give people, I think, that disclaimer so we can, number one, practice our values, and number two, be a good example for our students here at Vista Unified. All right. The next item we have is the approval of the agenda.
President Alvarado, I make a motion that we approve our agenda.
So moved.
A second.
Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda as is, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next is district announcements. Dr. Doyle.
Thank you very much.
President Alvarado, sorry to interrupt. Did we address item number 3, where there was public report of actions?
Yes.
Taken? No report?
No report.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Are we ready, Chris?
Thank you.
All right, so I'd like to stand up on this one. We have from time to time announcements where we would like to honor some of our employees and the great work that they've done with our community. And over the last 4 to 5 years, we've been working consistently as a school district, thanks to a variety of employees in our school district to bring PBIS to our school district and support our students with positive behavioral interventions. And I think we would all agree now more than ever before, those systems are absolutely necessary for our families and our students. So we'd like to recognize a number of schools and all of the staff members, students, and parents in our community who worked hard to bring us to where we are today. We're on a journey. Our goal is for all of our schools to have excellence around PBIS. And tonight we'd like to make quite a few commendations to those schools who have done wonderful things. We have with us Casey Ellis. She's the project specialist and PBIS specialist at San Diego County Office of Education. So Casey, thank you so much for being here with us. By Dr. Olmstead to read the paper. She's checking my reading tonight. And the two of these lovely ladies will have the honor to actually pass off the commendations. But if you give me a moment, it's quite a lengthy statement for our board to hear and for our community to hear. But I think considering the effort that our staff members have put into this, I think it's necessary for us to take the time to listen to this tonight. So I will get through it carefully so that we can honor all the great work. So the commendation for a Vista Unified School District on behalf of our Board of Trustees and the Superintendent for positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS implementation. It is with great pleasure and admiration that we extend this commendation to the dedicated and exceptional staff members who have contributed their time, energy, and expertise to enhancing the educational experiences of our students through the implementation of positive behavioral intervention supports, PBIS. As part of this Unified's dedication to a multi-tiered system of support, your school has diligently engaged in a comprehensive training series aimed at establishing school-wide behavioral expectations and practices. This endeavor reflects the USD's unwavering commitment to meeting the academic, behavioral, and social-emotional, including mental health needs for every student in our school district. We are thrilled to share that the California PBIS has recognized the efforts of our Cohort 1 schools, who have demonstrated an exceptional commitment to the implementation of PBIS with fidelity, adhering to the national framework. PBIS at Tier 1 level is designed to create safe, predictable, consistent, and proactive school environments that embrace the voices of our community, our faculty, family, and students, implementing PBIS in an ongoing journey that often spans multiple years, with utilizing a fidelity measurement called the Tier Fidelity Inventory, TFI. Where a minimum of 70% of fidelity is the benchmark for success, we are delighted to share that as Cohort 1 schools, you have achieved remarkable results. We extend our heartfelt congratulations and appreciation to the educators, staff, students, families, and community members who have contributed to the remarkable accomplishment. Together, you are fostering a positive and nurturing environment that empowers our students to thrive academically and personally. Your passion, dedication, and exceptional work reflect our core values of respect, trust, collaboration, equity, and kindness. We look forward to your continued excellence in shaping the future of education. Congratulations. About the school, and at the very end, we'll have our board come up, we'll get a picture. And we've asked 1 or 2 representatives from the school to come. I'll hand this off to Dr. Olmstead.
All right, we will first start with Impressa Elementary School. Don't go too far. I'm gonna take a group.
Yes, stand right, stand right. Yeah.
Honorary Elementary School. Wait, elementary school. Ready? There you go. Madison Middle School. Taking Those kids are at conferences right now.
Thank you.
Rancho Minerva Middle School.
Congratulations.
So these schools that we just announced had bronze certification. Our next group is silver recognition. So silver recognition starts with Bovier Elementary School.
Squeeze them in there. There we go. Actually, I gotta get the bottom of this. Watch your step.
And Maryland Elementary School.
Just watch that board.
And Bonita Vista Elementary School.
Running out of room here, board members. This is amazing.
And Roosevelt Middle School.
It's snowing.
The Leadership Academy.
Last, and not the least.
And we have a gold.
I'll be there next year.
All right, we have our board come down. We're gonna picture with these amazing schools doing great work for kids.
Yeah, why don't they stand behind?
You wanna stand behind? Will that work better?
I don't know.
No, let's come up in front. I think I can squeeze you in. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold your banners up proud. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There you go. I know. Okay. I'm wearing makeup. I know.
You know, you're mine. Guys, we got our logo.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's great.
I'm like, let's go.
All right, one more thing. Thank you for giving us the time to recognize this amazing school. They worked hard.
They sure do.
And for the record, board members, our other schools are signed on, so we absolutely anticipate the other half coming through. All right, last presentation for me. I get ready to stop and reshare. Every month, we recognize the great work of our teachers and our staff members who just do absolute wonderful things. Give me a second here so I can share this picture. Here we go. So I'll show the quick picture and then we have a very, very short video. So you can see it, but I always like to show the collage first. These are amazing staff members that do great work for our community and our students, and we like to celebrate them every month. So this is the group for celebrating, and we'll give you a moment to play the quick video.
congratulations to our October Stars of Excellence and Innovation.
Elijah Zepeda. Scott Grassley. Keep correct.
Catherine Morrow.
Joanna Melliker. Miller. Diana Flynn. Doris Cruz, Community Liaison.
Jan Westerlund.
Jeremy Mullen.
Thank you for all of your nominations as we look forward to awarding more staff members in November.
All right, and that's it. We're giving us the time to recognize.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 6. A, the public hearing. The purpose of this item is for the Board of Trustees to conduct a public hearing regarding the California School Employees Association Chapter 389 Sunshine Proposal for the reopener negotiations for the 2023-24 school year to the Vista Unified School District. It is now open for public comment. If anyone would like to come up and address the board. Seeing none. We will now close the public hearing. That's 6A. All right, now 6B. The purpose of this item is for the Board of Trustees to conduct a public hearing regarding the Vista Unified School District Sunshine Proposal for reopener negotiations for the 2023-24 school year to the California School Employee Association Chapter 389. It is now open for public comment. Seeing none, we will now proceed with closing this public hearing. The next item on the agenda is item 7, presentation by the committee members, public comments, and committee members. Any member of the audience who wishes to hold and speak to an agenda item at the appropriate time, speak to an item not on the agenda, should complete a hold card and present it to the board secretary before item 2A or before the meeting begins. In an effort to gain as much public input as possible, individual speakers will be limited to 3 minutes or less. A total of 20 minutes will be held for public comments under item 7A, not 6A, right?
Yeah,
7A, yeah, under 7A. The remainder of the public comments will be continued after the completion of discussion action items if necessary. The first speaker to address the board is Tuba Ata. If I said your name incorrectly, please correct me. Okay. And that's agenda item 7A, general comments. Okay.
A minute, I think. Well, hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Tuba, and that's my husband, Eric. We are the parents of Arasol Lekowski, a 5-year-old boy at Louisa Hill Elementary School. Our son has severe food allergies to peanut, tree nuts, and many other allergens. Today, we would like to bring 2 matters into your attention. One, the school to require, not suggest, staff to receive training to administer epinephrine during emergencies and mandated. 2, children consume an unhealthy amount of sugar through food offered for celebrations and activities, as well as for incentives, which also increases the risk of anaphylactic reactions. It's a common understanding by all government health agencies, academic journals, allergy and immunology groups that severe food allergies are becoming more and more prevalent in our communities year over year. According to a CDC report, between 97 to 99 and 2009 to 2011, food allergy prevalence among children increased by 50%. We wanted to present some information taken from the FAIR Food Allergy Research and Education website for this group to consider before we present our proposals. Every 3 minutes, a food allergy reaction sends someone to the emergency room. More than 15% of school-age children with food allergies have had a reaction in school. In one large school district during the 2012-2013 school year, more than half of the 38 individuals who were treated with district-supplied EpiPens were experiencing their first severe reaction. Food allergy reactions can happen in multiple locations throughout the school and are not limited to the cafeteria. Care must be exercised during bake sale, classroom parties, and opportunity for snacking. Not recognizing the severity of an anaphylactic reaction and treating promptly within minutes with EpiPen is a risk factor for fatalities. On behalf of all children with food allergies and their parents with Vista Unified School District, we would like to make two proposals to this board. One, disallowing outside classroom treats for special events to come into the club to the school. There are plenty of other ways to celebrating rather than giving sugar treats to our children. Two, the mandatory training of all district staff on getting trained and setting the expectation of mandatory administration of an EpiPen in case of an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. The next speaker is Christine Gone.
I'm Christine Goen. I'm a speech language pathologist in the district. I work at Lake Elementary and Madison Middle School, and I just wanted to share some information with you. Our students are not just caseload numbers and data points. Caseload only refers to the number of students that we serve. Workload is all of the activities required for speech language pathologists to effectively manage our caseloads. I would like to speak about the impact of our workloads upon our abilities to make our department stronger, which is specifically supervision. Supervision by our district SLPs is a serious commitment. However, we don't have a lot of staff who are actually supervising right now or who are willing to supervise. About 74% of our SLPs are not currently supervising at all. Why is this, you might ask? The most common reason for our SLPs is workload. Quality supervision is a time and energy commitment, one that is gladly undertaken when an overall workload allows it. However, SLPs realize the level of dedication required to supervise well does not align with the workloads that we are presently experiencing. Qualified SLPs supervise SLP assistants, graduate interns, which are student teachers for us, and new hires completing their required first year of employment out of graduate school. When we supervise graduate interns, we can showcase our district to a university and get to know soon-to-be graduates. In essence, it's a fabulous pathway to employment with us. When they graduate and interview with our district, we know them and they know us. Presently, more than 1 in 5 of our current SLPs on staff completed an internship in our district. Once SLP graduates are ready to look for employment, they need supervision for their first year of employment after graduation. When new graduates interview with our district, we want to say, absolutely, we have staff to support you through your first year with the required supervision. We want them to grow up in our department and become invested, long-term Vista SLPs who serve our students, schools, and families well by becoming part of the community and family of Vista Unified. Presently, over 60% of our SLPs did complete their first year out of graduate school with our district, and they're still here. In 1996, I completed my first year out of graduate school with Vista, and I'm still here. And I've attended a lot of board meetings, but I've never felt compelled to speak at a board meeting. And this is one I feel really strongly about, the workload of SLPs right now. Our SLPs need to be part of the solution of addressing our workload so meaningful, consequential change can happen. There have been various random meetings conducted over the years to begin looking at caseload versus workload, but the process has often been abandoned and no real changes resulted. We are asking again for the district to commit to supporting us with real workload solutions to allow us to rebuild our history of strong supervision.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And next, we have two names on this card, but only one can speak. So Hayden Dean or Alicia Diaz.
As long as we stay under our 3-minute mark, we can vote kind of.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's-
all righty.
All right.
Okay, hi.
Hello, my name is Alicia Diaz and this is Katie Dean, and we are students at Rancho Buena Vista. We had some concerns about the staff coordination with directing traffic, and we believe that there isn't the best coordination before school starts and after school. In the morning, there are multiple staff monitoring students crossing and others directing the cars to make sure they're dropping off their kids quickly and safely. But sometimes this isn't always the case. I would know this because I've dealt with this firsthand. In the morning, when there isn't staff monitoring the traffic, there have been plenty of accidents and angry parents not knowing which way to go. There are parents that park their cars on the sidelines of the drop-off lane just to sit in their cars. These cars that are parked in the sideline confuse parents into which lane they're supposed to be in, which causes a commotion, putting all their focus into these parked cars and on the side lanes, and itself that can cause an accident. Cars should not be parked at any time in any lane. This isn't safe, and staff should be making sure parents are in and out of these lanes safely.
Hello, my name is Kaden. My concerns are also related to the staff not doing their job properly, which leads to an endangerment of students and students being late. To me, it's unreasonable that I have to leave my house 40 minutes before school starts in order to make it to school on time. Just for perspective, I live 5 minutes away without traffic. I understand the staff can't get rid of all the traffic, but they can certainly help immensely if they actually did their part. And they just didn't sit around on their phone like I see almost every morning. It is also concerning to me because the students are also put at a risk, because when impatient drivers are trying to make it to school on time, they put other students at risk with their impatient driving. I understand it's not necessarily the staff's job to direct traffic, but I think we should have someone dedicated to that goal. I hope you can understand my concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Alicia. That concludes the public comment. The next item on the agenda is 8 reports from school-related organizations. You will have 3 to 5 minutes. First up is Vista Teachers Association.
Good evening, Board of Education, student board members, Superintendent Dr. Doyle, Cabinet, and community. And I first of all want to give a shout out to school psychologists for School Psychologist Week. VTA would like to report the following. This month, VTA and the Rotary Club of Vista continued the literacy project. We donated 1,500 books to the first graders in VUSD, and I and 5 other fellow Rotarians had the pleasure to visit and read to students in the classroom. We also have started to work with Vista High School, Rancho Buena Vista High School, and Mission Vista High School to send 6 students to the RILA camp, which is Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. And it is a youth leadership camp about community service. We're also starting to other projects, and I'll keep you updated with that later. VTA also attended the 50-year gala for the San Diego LGBTQ+ Center. We had members attend San Diego and Imperial Leadership Conference and CTA State Council. Tonight, you will be discussing and looking into TK, and we hope you put thought into the systems to keep that 2 to 24 ratio when we can't find a guest teacher or a guest IA or teacher to fill in the spot. We know the state is discussing lowering the ratio to 2 to 20, and what are the systems in place to support our TK teachers when their IA is out and there's no other guest teacher there to replace it. So making sure those systems are in place is doing what is best for not only our students, but our teachers as well. A member who was on the 7th period day committee told me that teachers involved felt positive about the process and heard throughout. VT is happy that the teacher voice did in fact guide the recommendations for next year's schedules at Vista High School and RBV. And that is the way to continue to build trust. We are about to dive in to the portraits, the learner portraits, adult portraits, and system portraits. I have noticed, and you saw tonight, we speak a lot about the systems that support our students. We as a district have taken very seriously food insecurity, and we are building systems of social and emotional and academic supports. And we're developing community schools to support our communities so that every student graduates from Vista Unified as a resilient, agile learner and a creative problem solver who navigates the world with confidence, kindness, and eagerly embraces local and global challenges. But as we talk about systems, we encourage the board to think about the systems that support our adults in being the adult portrait of a compassionate champion, a flexible and innovative facilitator, and an open mind and equity-centered learner. Our adults too need support. Last year was the first time I was approached by a member asking if I knew where they could find a food kitchen. Our teachers can also face food insecurity and home insecurity. A 3% raise transfers to our lowest paid member at about $140 extra a paycheck. So a month. The increase in benefits that my members are facing make it actually less in their coming home. Today, I was comparing benefits packages of the surrounding districts, San Marcos, Oceanside, Carlsbad, and Bonsall. VSD benefits is not competitive at all. In fact, we are far, far behind those districts with our benefits packages. So I encourage the board to look into the systems that make sure that both our certificated and classified staff have wages that afford them the ability to live in the communities that we serve. Because to support our students, we also need to support our teachers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Is the report from the California School Employees Association.
Good evening, school board members, superintendent, cabinet, community partners, brothers, sisters, and siblings of CSCA Chapter 3 and 9. I am Marcela Ramos, District Interpreter Translator, and also Chapter President. I want to start off by sharing that in October, CSCA collaborated with district administrators, including Dr. Doyle, to schedule meetings with classified employees at Rancho Minerva Middle School and Beaumont to discuss the consolidation of schools and its impact on classified employees. CSCA is happy to report that members were thankful that the district provided clear information about what led to the consolidation of schools, but most importantly, the district's plan and how they plan to support classified employees during this transition. Part of that plan includes additional meetings with classified employees at these schools in the months of December and January. To develop trust requires transparency. And in order to have transparency, you must have communication. So I want to take this time to thank the district for giving us that opportunity and working collaboratively with us. Tonight, the board will have the opportunity to approve CSCA's initial proposal to enter contract bargaining with the district. We hope that as we enter this phase, all parties involved will keep our values of respect, trust, collaboration, equity, and kindness as our guiding principles. Recently, the board has heard from several classified employees stating the critical need for a living wage and their concern about needing to leave their employment at USD to seek other opportunities in order to make ends meet. The chapter's executive board would like to elaborate on the concept of a living wage. A living wage to the classified employees of CSCA Chapter 3 and 9 is defined as, number one, a wage that provides members with the ability to cover the cost of their family's basic needs. Two, affordable health care insurance. 3, food security. 4, affordable housing. Without these basic needs being met, it's not realistic to believe that classified employees can fulfill VUSD's adult portrait. Our students deserve to know that those who support their educational needs have the resources to support not only themselves, but their families as well. We do not expect a quick solution. We're realistic about this. So CSEA proposes that the board collaborate with us in the form of maybe a district committee or workshop to create a list of goals the district should aspire to in order to be the pegs that run the gears of the adult portrait. And lastly, on the topic of trust and collaboration, it was brought up to CSEA's attention that the board has established parameters on how CSEA gives its reports. The CSEA report is members exercising the right as a union to communicate with the board. CSEA is open to constructive feedback from the board on bringing members' concern to the board's attention. As chapter president, I commit to providing my personal information to the board so that we can begin this dialogue moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem. Next on the agenda is board member report. I also have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Are you guys amenable to 3 minutes or do you want 5? It's fine. Good. All right, let's start with trustee Smith.
Okay, really quick. Yeah, we're gonna have a report on tonight. We're gearing up for our first class to end in school next year, so we'll be talking about that tonight. They've been working hard with the teachers, getting the curriculum, what subjects they're gonna teach, and I think are you gonna share all that tonight? Okay, so then I will spare you that. The other thing is our buildings. Oh my goodness, what a great week. So, I'll start with Rancho. The CTE building is just phenomenal going in there. I got a chance we stopped by the welding class. They were working outside and yeah, it's gonna be good things. So when you get a chance, when it's open, go see that along with Vista Magnet Middle School, a little different, kind of keeping the historic ambiance, whatever the look on it. So that's coming along. Everything's kind of winding down now, so it's exciting. And then Vista, we have our 2 buildings that are almost ready to go and they can start moving in. One of them over current Christmas break, I think. And then I don't know, I wasn't here last month, but we did do a dedication at the sports complex. Did we talk about that already?
Yeah.
We did last month?
No,
Well, we've talked
Okay.
about
no, it happened
happened
a week
after,
after it. Yeah.
Okay, so
It
the
happened a
sports
week after.
complex at Vista High, we had our dedication. It's beautiful, the fields, oh my goodness gracious. And then RBV at their beautiful softball field, and the gym finally has restrooms, which is kind of confusing why it wasn't started that way, but we still have a lot more to do in the district going forward, as you know, at all of our sites mostly. So hopefully we'll get to continue that halfway, but it's getting exciting.
Thank you, trustee Smithfield. Trustee Vargas?
Yeah, for the last month, a couple events, I attended the Foothill reclassification ceremony, so congratulations to those scholars that, are moving up and, wish them success in their future endeavors at the elementary school. Following that same day, we went to Bovier for a community meeting update on the Bovier Measure LL project. Definitely a very exciting project coming in the pipeline, and with the, much gratitude to Grace and her team and the construction team. Definitely parents are, watching what's happening there, but it's going to be a beautiful campus in the next 2 to 3 years. In addition to that, was at Grapevine Elementary. They celebrated Red Ribbon Week with the Assembly Member Lori Davis. And with the, once again, awareness for our young children there. Congratulations to Vista High School's football team. They crushed Rancho Buena Vista a couple weeks ago. You have losers and winners, and this time Vista High School definitely, get a lot of touchdowns. Later this month, we'll be attending, some of us will be attending the California School Board Conference. Trustee Kelly and myself will be attending delegate assembly. Big discussion of this month is gonna be mental health, and so what is it that we can do as a school district to support the mental health of our staff, our students, and the parents to some extent. So definitely looking forward to those conversations and more to come next month. Thank you.
Trustee Morocco?
Okay, I have my little cheat notes here, so, I went, to the dedication ceremonies that trustee Smithfield talked about. At Vista High School and, RBB, which was awesome. Also the Festival of Arts, which was just so amazing, seeing all the talent of our students, how wonderful that is. Really enjoyed that. And then, I went to the Honolulu reclassification ceremony, and that was quite rewarding. It's so exciting to see these little guys that, are dual language now. Is like, I feel kind of inadequate when I see them. They're so good. And then I also went to the NASB conference, the National School Board, and we saw Dr. Olmsted do an amazing presentation on community schools. We're so proud of her. And so let's see. And I think that's about it for, other than just our normal boring meetings that you guys don't hear.
Trustee Kelly?
Thanks. I attended 2 meetings of the district's magnet steering committee. That group has been hard at work under the leadership of Dr. Shigela. And there will be some information coming forward in this evening's meeting from that group's work. I also attended the NASB conference where Dr. Olmsted was part of a panel. That was a national audience of state school board members. And an amazing opportunity for Vista to showcase itself. There was just a lot of shock and awe in the room at what a comprehensive program we've created in year 1 of community school implementation. So kudos. I had the pleasure of attending the inaugural meeting of our district's Visual and Performing Arts Steering Committee under Susan Stuber's leadership. And I think can I say what we talked about? Like, we're gonna look forward as a board to having student performances come in as part of every board meeting, so that we can, enjoy and give our students also an opportunity to showcase some of the things that they're working on. And yeah, the last thing on my list was a certain football game that Cipriano also.
Well, I attended many of the events that my colleagues did. The dedication for the plaque ceremony at Vista High, at the sports complex, at RBB and the gymnasium. That was awesome. It was very empowering to see such a wonderful place for our female athletes. They deserve it, and they deserve to have something that's equitable and that's sustainable for years to come. So I was proud of being there. Festival of Arts was awesome. Lots of schools showcasing their talents, and all those wonderful teachers who put in their time and energy to infuse the love of the arts to the students. I just want to say thank you to all of the staff that made that happen. We went to the football game, and I just remember last year. And so I always like, oh, pobrecitos, I hope they win next year. And so I always go back and forth on like, I hope, just so it could be fair, kind of like the grandma or, poor things. So I was happy to see Vista come away with a win that evening. Let's see, I did a lot. I'm sorry. I got to go to the Dia de los Muertos, which was a beautiful presentation of our culture and our tradition to celebrate our dead, our departed, our ancestors. And so Kiki Bispo and her team did a fabulous job. And wow, the talent, again, our scholars performing, singing, dancing, the visual arts were there. I mean, you had it all. It was a beautiful night and good food, long lines for the food. I think we need like 2 more trucks.
We had 2.
We need 2 more. And then just Monday I went to a fundraiser for Mana, the Hermanitas program, North County Mana, and they are an organization that mentors Latinas, both in business, but they also work with our schools. And so they had their general board meeting, and I'm so proud to have them at our school. I think there's only one school that doesn't have representation. I don't know if I should just drop a little, no, maybe not, okay. We just need a teacher to help out with that at one of our middle schools, and it could be even a classified employee as well. I toured Casita today. I got to see their fabulous labs. Trustee Kelly and I met with our SRO supervisors, along with Dr. Sheree McKinn and Dr. Doyle, and then the principals, to talk about our programs and how we can continue to sharpen the saw and make that program better. And I got to walk the maintenance yard in some schools with Miss Ramos, the president of CSEA. I am in awe of all that cool technology that we have with on our maintenance yard. If I didn't have high heels, I would have gotten on that, like that tractor. I really wanted to get on it, but it was incredible. We're doing good things, and we're making things safer for our employees, and we're creating an environment at school where the maintenance doesn't hinder or doesn't prevent our kids and our staff from learning. So we're way ahead of it. And I always compare, I shouldn't do this, I always compare what Vista's doing to like other districts and where I work, and we're way ahead with the technology and with our climate goals and having green machines and these electric buses. So I'm so proud of everyone working in collaboration to make those things happen, right? Because they don't happen in isolation. When we get a grant, when we get sign up for this, I mean, everyone's working, everyone is synergizing. Our classified employees, their leadership, and us and everyone. So it was great. It was a very busy month.
Yeah, very busy.
Well, I think I forgot something else, but.
I think we forgot one thing. At the NASB conference, not only do we have Dr. Olmsted represent our community schools, but we were the only school, only district representative. We also had the Rancho Buena Vista High School wind ensemble. They were invited. They actually opened up, and this is the national state school board representatives from every state in the union. This is a big deal. So I just wanted to shout out for RBV, and they did amazing work. And I actually got a letter from one of the members of the school board thanking and thanking RBV for the work we did. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that was a lot. We're busy, y'all. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 10, staff committee reports. 10A, transitional kindergarten staffing update.
All right, let me share the screen, and then Ms. D'Ambrosio, you can take it away.
All right, so good evening. I have prepared an update for you that reflects three things. Current TK kindergarten, transitional kindergarten staffing, changes to the California Department of Ed timelines regarding the staffing ratios, and just general state compliance information. You want to go next? So this is the one thing that has not changed is the TK expansion timeline in regards to the age of the students and when they can enroll. Okay. So the last presentation for TK was provided at a regular board meeting on February 24th, 2022. And so this chart reflects on the top line that is not highlighted, what information you received at that time. So in 23-24, the adult student ratios and the class max size should have been 20-1 and then 1-10 per adult. Below, if you go down to the blue, this was the change. So right now they've extended the 1-12 all the way through 25-26. They also did this, which I'll talk about a little bit later, as far as the certification as well. So there has been an update on the timeline to require TK certification. Wanted to highlight a few things. It was supposed to happen this year, 23-24. That has been postponed to 2025. Our district has worked really hard, and we've partnered with VTA to have an MOU that will help our certificated teachers in having some options to get the correct certification that would qualify them to teach TK. We have two options. one option is kind of an external option where they have they can go to Palomar College or another university or a community college to get 24 ECE units, and we would reimburse. And then option 2 is an internal micro credential that we have set. We have had 20 teachers actually complete the credential requirements this year. And so we're way ahead now. We kind of knew they would postpone it, and so we're happy that they did, but that gives us more time, and we have several teachers receiving a stipend for that. This slide reflects the current enrollment by site and the assigned staff in all TK classes, both certificated and classified. I'll point out that Alamosa has 1 regular TK, 1 DLI, Grapevine has 2 DLI, and Honolulu has 1 DLI class. So we have a mixture of regular and DLI. As outlined on slide 3, the staffing ratios of 1 to 10 were extended to the 25-26 school year. So we will continue with the 1 to 12 for the remainder of this year and into the next. As we go through some of the next slides, these are commonly asked questions that are on the CDE website with specific answers, and I do monitor those to see when they've been updated. So this last one was updated on September 6th. So does the 1 to 12 adult to student ratio need to be maintained at all times during the instructional day? And we are required to maintain an average of at least 1 adult for every 12 students and maintain for the instructional day to the extent it is reasonably possible. One of the examples they gave is, a teacher might need to take a student to the office, or they might need to, have a break with a student. And so things like that, that's what they mean by reasonably possible. And just to note that each class must have a certificated employee. So they must have that. And that would mean an instructional assistant couldn't teach the class. Next slide. So another common question is, how is the average of students calculated? And so basically the average TK class enrollment is not more than 24 students in a classroom, or the average at the site. And it's monitored each month, starting in the month of September through April. So there's a little bit of leeway in August and May and June. And so we actually, on the last day of the month, Mrs. Shackelford gets to complete an audit document, and then that's where we average how many students are attending at that time. And on the last slide, same thing for the staffing ratio. The calculation for the adult to student ratio is taken on the last teaching day of each month, starting in October through April. And business services completes the audit with the calculations and ensures that we are in compliance. Any questions?
So on page 63, to average, how is the average calculated? That's not school site average.
No, it's actually per class.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though, the language on the CDU website says school average, but it is class. We cannot go over 24 per class.
So
Yeah.
it's not, okay.
Yeah. I know I've seen that different times throughout their language, but it definitely is 24. We cannot go past that.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I guess that concludes this report. Thank you. Next on the agenda is 10B, high school instructional schedule adjustments.
Started when you're ready.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're good.
Confirming there are no hold cards for any of the current agenda items.
Yeah.
So, I do want to thank Dr. Olmsted and, the team, for creating space and time for our staff. We have staff members here tonight who participated. As you know, one of the directions we were given was to ensure that our staff had voice in this process. And, Christine will go over the process, but I do want to thank all the members, both teachers, staff, and administrators for participating in this process. And tonight we have some ideas and some recommendations that came from the voice of the people who participated. Take it away, Dr. Olson.
All right.
ahead and move to the next slide.
So the purpose of getting together was that the board gave us direction to expand course offerings for students up to 7 periods at both Vista High School and Rancho Buena Vista High School. The following parameters were used to determine our alternative schedules. We met first to meet the needs of each student to be college and career ready, expand choice for students, expands A through G offerings, and expands career pathways and certifications. Ensuring that the courses provide focus and rigor, that it's sustainable and realistic given the district's resources. We provide consistency, minimizing gaps in learning, and fosters a relationship between teachers and students and among students. Next slide. So the process we used was that teams of administrators and teachers from both schools representing multiple departments met for 2 full days, October 9th and October 16th. We also had Dr. Matt Coleman come in, who's one of our consultants from Inflection. His team has actually done a ton of research and has provided research to the field around high school bell schedules and which ones kind of best meet the needs of students. And so he came in and helped us facilitate these meetings. And then in between meetings, the high school teams went back, talked to their own teams about what we were discussing, got more ideas, and then we came back for a second round of meetings. Next slide. The considerations that we used in addition to kind of what the board had given us was expansion of career pathways. What would that look like? How does collaboration work? Are there opportunities as we expand a high school schedule to create more common prep periods where there's more teacher collaboration, or can we find a way to build some teacher collaboration into that schedule as well? That it was student-centered. That was the biggest part of our conversation, was which schedule is best meets the needs of students and the academic needs that they have, as well as the social, emotional, and mental health needs that they have too. It was a big, huge part of our discussion. Everything we looked at was from a student-centered lens. Was it responsive to student needs and what we're hearing from our community? Was it reflective of what we need to do for our community schools? And were we listening to the voices of our own communities in each school? The time, the rigor, and really importantly too, both schools talked about their WASC needs based on their recent WASC visits and making sure we implement what WASC is telling us to do. Next slide. And so when we looked at the up to 7 periods, there were 4 different schedules that we considered as we looked at this. So a traditional 7 period, which would mean you run 1 through 7. What happens with that is if you just run 1 through 7 every day, while it offers more opportunities for students, it completely limits the amount of time a class would be. And so you're shortening the class length, which then impacts the minutes we are required for IP and AP courses. So that one kind of came off the table right away because it just limited access. We spent a lot of time looking at the trimester schedule. We looked at how it could impact what a year-long course would look like versus a trimester course, things like that. While it does offer a lot more opportunities for students, when you look at our IB coursework and our AP coursework, it actually minimizes the amount of time that we need for those courses. It also reduces options for support classes when you run a trimester schedule. And that the pace may be too fast for some of our students to be on a trimester schedule because you're actually truncating course offerings that may be year-long. And so we looked at those concerns that we had too. An option also that we looked at was a 7-period flex, which is basically block schedules with advisories, tutorials, and extension activities included within a 7-period flex. This offers more opportunities for students, including a designated support period during the day, increases opportunities for seniors to further complete A through G courses, internships, and CT pathways. A big concern was that some students may be overwhelmed if they elected to take all the classes, right? And so we want to make sure that there are lots of counseling sessions that are happening. If a student came in and said, I want to take this many classes, we'd really work with students to be able to look at that. And then another idea that was placed out there was a 0 and 7 period expansion of the day. So expanding A through G courses and CT pathways at 0 and 7 periods. This also offers opportunities for students. It maximizes instructional minutes for all students and increases seniors' opportunity to complete A through G, because we're finding a lot of seniors aren't completing A through G, as well as CTE pathways. And then same concern is by expanding more classes, students may opt to take more classes, getting overwhelmed if they're not canceled properly. In these discussions, we've really found that the two schools have very unique needs based on their student populations, the student needs, the initiatives they have under WASC as well as under community schools. So Vista High's preference schedule is the 7-period flex schedule. This schedule would allow students to take 7 classes. Teachers would have 1 prep period and then a collaborative planning time built in there as well. It also offers kind of a house academic intervention block for students and giving them time to have some really serious tier 2 interventions that we might need. And that was a result of WASC, really needing to focus in on some of these tier 2 interventions that we're finding students need. The next schedule, RBV team, really preference a 0-7 expansion. And they've been trying out some of this year. They have a 0-period expansion intervention block for math that they're finding very successful. 78 students have attended so far as an intervention block. 77 of the 78 students are not failing their class now based on doing an intervention block. They've been able to expand 0-7-period offerings at the school as well, and they want to continue to add A through G options and CTE pathways at these times too. A 7-period CTE pathway may allow a student to take an internship and provide more access to students that way as well. This schedule also would allow for more co-teaching opportunities for our students with disabilities who need supports in their regular general education classroom. And so lots of ideas about how we can maximize the school day and provide really tier 1 support. Their WASC report said we need to do more at tier 1. Vista High, more tier 2. RBV, more tier 1. So it's interesting what the 2 reports are saying and how we need to be responsive to those 2 schools. Next slide. And so our steps now are to gather feedback from the board tonight. One consideration that kept coming up from both schools was that currently our board policy has seniors only having to take up to 5 periods. This limits sometimes students who have not completed A through G or CTE pathways because our policy says they don't have to, so there's sometimes pushback with counselors when they say, well, I don't want to. And so we might need to look at maybe looking at our board policy specific to A through G and CTE pathway completion down the road. So we'll consolidate your feedback today. Ideally, we need a decision by December because we need to start our master schedules in January. In January through June is master schedule development, and then we would also work on our communication plan to families.
I want to start off with school board or our high school representative. What do you think of these plans that we have for expanding?
I think they are very good. You know, I like how you're talking about like you don't want them to be too overwhelmed, you know, with certain things, and you also want to give them enough room to have more classes so they can attend, so they can have more learning on their expand, you know. And I believe it's going to be a good schedule, you know, that you guys can go forward with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the young lady, she left.
Yeah, she was.
Trustee Vargas, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm excited about the implementation. With that, one thing to keep in mind is ethnic studies. I think
Yes.
it's gonna be mandated in 2 years if I remember
Yes.
correctly, so.
Mhm.
we're-
Ethnic studies. Okay. Yes, and we're working on that.
And so I know our schools already provided that, but if every student needs to take it, then, you know, we need to increase capacity for that. Can you talk to me about how do we create choice for students and what kind of courses they want to take?
Needs assessments with students, asking them for what we want our expanded offerings to be. We have a lot of classes on the books that we don't offer right now because we don't have enough time in the day. So there's things that we would ask students based on what we already have approved. What things would you like? And then also asking students, what more would you like up? So doing some surveys with
And
students.
can those be integrated with like tier 1, tier 2?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Trustee Morocco.
The board policy, I actually more want to kind of run it by my colleagues. When we would think about doing that, when would be the timeline for we're altering that. to-
Well, that was a recommendation that was given to us in the Renda report, that we need to make that mandatory if we really want to see different outcomes with our kids. So that's just a matter of putting it on the agenda and, you know, having deliberations on it. But, we've heard that several times.
Is that done? It's not done through a workshop, then it's just done at a board meeting?
Yeah.
It would span 2 meetings, but we typically want, if we wanted to change, we want to do it fairly quickly, so it can be part of the design of the master schedule.
Okay.
We could bring that forward to the December meeting as first read.
Trustee Kelly?
Did you have any other?
No, that's, it sounds good. It sounds exciting. I'm glad that my understanding is that everybody felt heard and it was a very positive process. So I want to commend you for that. I want to commend our teachers and staff for their time and their input on that. And I'm really excited going forward.
Thank you.
Well, I called up my bookmarked copy of the Arenda report, which I like to refer to. And I support that it's time to align our graduation requirements to A through G and the data from, what was it, 2018, 2019? That this was completed was like, we were only 46% of our students were graduating A through G compliant. Which just closes doors right as they're collecting their diplomas. So yes to Trustee Morocco's question and suggestion. And I do appreciate that we're able to continue offering choice as we have always prioritized as a district to our families and as well to our school sites and our staffs. So I think I also commend you and the work of the group on bringing these options to us.
Trustee Smithfield?
So I know they were heard because I did hear that. So I do thank you for that because we don't always do that and they are the experts. And also the fact that we didn't lump them together because they're two totally different. And so, yeah, I'm glad if they're good with it, I'm good. They know what they need to do.
And for me, I concur with the comments my fellow colleagues have stated already. And I'm glad that, you know, we are allowing our staff to be meaningful problem solvers when we have to look at our schools and look at our system to make the environment a place where all our scholars can thrive and where they have more opportunities. So I'm grateful that we have these 2 different recommendations because, like I said, you know, it is 2 unique staffs and unique student groups as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
And we will be bringing that back to you in December with all the final adjustments.
All right, next on the agenda is 10C, preliminary findings and considerations for school boundary adjustments.
All right, so this is again, step 1 of a 2-step process. We've been working really hard. I'm going to hand it off in a moment to our team. But we do anticipate getting some final feedback from the board tonight. So we must have a vote for you in December. And so this is just one final opportunity while we finalize it. And then we want to, as you know, we've community members who can take a report for Minerva answers by December. So that's the purpose of tonight. I'm ready to hand it off to Dr. Mosford and Lady Shackelford.
One moment. So at 8 o'clock, it's like 8 minutes from now. You can leave now or stay for this presentation.
Stay all night if you want.
But I know you've been here a long time, so you know, don't worry. When you feel like you need to leave, just go ahead, and we appreciate your presence here tonight. Thank you.
All right, and then before I hand it off to Lady Shackelford, we do have a member of the team that actually did the study, David, and he's on virtually because he's supporting many districts.
3 districts tonight.
When we can get him help. So David, thank you so much for being patient.
I appreciate you accommodating me tonight. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to make it. So thank you so much.
And you just tested your audio, so everything works. And so take it away, Lady Sharp.
Dr. Loescher will begin.
Thank you very much to you, Dr. Superintendent, and to our board members. We're gonna open up quickly with just a very brief overview of the direction provided by the board, so that way, those that are here attending have that. And then we're gonna dive into, what are the initial findings of the team that is looking at possible reboundaries as it relates to school consolidation. There are just a few high-level things to keep in mind here as we go through this presentation. One is that our demographer is bound to the rules of demographics as a statistical scientist. Therefore, what that means is they have to follow those rules, and some of those rules will indicate that there are more students living inside of a boundary than there is room at that schools, and that's natural here at Vista Unified because we have magnet schools. And magnet schools draw from those areas, but the demographer has to present that information as it actually is. And the demographer will demonstrate, as well as Lady Shackelford, that these are items that are going through and that this is naturally part of what we do and it happens now. A second item is that we did come back to you with the recommendations from the board of saying, look at 3 specific strategies. Strategy A, B, and C. A is single site option. That means taking the school being consolidated and redistributing it in one particular zone. The second was to do so taking a cluster approach, looking at a group of schools. And the third approach was to look district-wide. What we wanted to share with you as we go into this is in the order of presentation, we're going to address middle schools first because the middle school really only has one option, which is the redistribution to the 2 middle schools. In elementary school, we will be presenting all 3 options. But we do think you will find that option 3 really does put the district out of balance when it comes to elementary schools. And we're going to demonstrate that for the board. And that if the board so wished, we can engage in a much larger process of talking about broader reboundaries, but that typically takes multiple years to get into with the demographer so we can involve our school community and is outside of the scope usually of school consolidation. So that's just a quick overview. Looking at our option this evening, we have gone through our timeline. Each of these approaches will be presented, and at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our to Amy, so that way she can present for you on each of these options, starting with the middle school. I'll be jumping back in on option C because it gets a little more complicated there on some of the items. So thank you very much.
So to begin with the middle schools, we do have 5 middle schools. 3 schools are considered residential. The other 2 are magnet schools, so they are considered transfer schools. And so when you are looking at establishing or modifying boundaries of schools, you do that by the residential schools. So as you see on the left-hand side, while we have presented a proposed boundary change and existing boundary lines. So on the left-hand side in the black line, currently reflect our 3 boundary areas. And what we're proposing is actually to mirror our current high school boundaries. So you'll see red in the north, blue in the south, so Roosevelt and Madison, and that would mirror, as you see on the right-hand side, the red line reflects the high school. And so middle school is a little bit more straightforward than our elementaries because we're consolidating from 3 boundary areas to 2. And so in order to streamline our boundaries, what we're proposing is to mirror the high school boundary lines. And so moving on to the next slide, what does that look like? So as Dr. Loescher had mentioned, working with our demographer, they do their analysis based on residential students. And so what you see reflected here is data from our most recent demographer reports. And so it now reflects that proposed change of just having the 2 boundary areas. And so as an example, looking at this year's proposed or projected residential number of students, it would be approximately 1,600 for Madison, 1,800 for Roosevelt. We've also then reflected over the next several years the same declining enrollment information that was presented in the demographer's reports. The demographer does update the report every year. Once our enrollment is certified at this date, then the demographer will finalize the report and we'll get updated numbers in the spring. The last several years have reflected that declining enrollment, and so that's what you see here. So moving on to the next slide. we wanted to reflect the impact of magnet schools. And so on the right-hand side is a matrix, the same matrix that we include in our demographer reports. And so what this does for you is it outlines by the different schools, the current residential students in those areas. So as an example, Madison, residential students, approximately 1,200. Those that currently attend Madison, 779, according to last year's data. And if you look to the right, you'll see Vita, and you'll see the impact of Vista Magnet. So between the two magnet schools, there's approximately 400 residential students in the Madison area that don't attend Madison, they attend those magnet schools. And so that's when we talk about, while the proposed residential students, number of students look larger than the capacity, that's not reflecting the number of students that transfer out. So moving on to elementary, a little bit of an eyesore, we apologize. It was a little tricky getting onto one slide, but you can see it's the same concept, all the elementary schools, and if you go to the far right, you can see the impact of the magnet draws from BAPA and Casita. And so moving on to the next slide. So now we're going to move on to the elementary. So we did have 3 different approaches. The first approach is approach A, which is single site. And so there is actually no change to the existing boundaries, but what we did with the Beaumont boundary line, you'll see outlined in black that the majority of Beaumont in this scenario is actually moved to Foothill. On the east side, there's a little wedge that goes to Monte Vista. And then on the west side, we are trying to balance between the 4 schools. So you'll see a little adjustment for Maryland and for Beaubier. And so this scenario, if you look on the right-hand side, similar information to the middle schools, we were trying to balance to an ideal enrollment. Approximately about 650 students is a good balancing for our capacity for our elementary. And so this approach does balance. It's a little tricky when we are trying to find the boundary lines, because in the middle of the city, it's very dense. So it was a little tricky trying to balance those out. So moving on to approach B, what we were trying to reflect is to smooth out some of those long distance lines. So as an example, you'll notice now in this scenario that the majority of the Beaumont area now shifts over to Monte Vista, and you'll see the northern part is primarily Foothill. And so we were trying to address that long travel time for some of our families. So you'll see that this is just another scenario. Also, the attempt is to balance out the elementaries. Maryland does look a little high, but again, if you reference back to the elementary side, you can see the magnet draw that does impact Maryland.
I have a question. Are these numbers on here? Before they leave for the magnet?
Correct. So they do look higher because it's hard to project the impact of magnets. So we wanted to at least provide an historical snapshot on the one summary chart so that you can see the impact.
I also have a question. Is there a reason why Honolulu was not considered as one of the schools also? Because a lot of the kids that are going to Beaumont right now are not too far away from Honolulu either.
We're happy to take that feedback and come back and present it, but when looking at the schools, these were the schools that had the majority of capacity information. And we were trying to adjust the fewest number of schools possible within a cluster to impact the fewest number of families with any change.
We do have David here. I don't know, David, if you heard that question. We can bring you more information back in when you vote on it, but perhaps, David, were you able to hear that question from our trustee?
Yes, I did. And it just like Sean mentioned, that the initial approach, especially with the first 2 scenarios, were minimal impact. With that area, Beaumont touches, I know it touches Hanalei below as well, but we want to just minimize the number of schools that are affected by it. But that is something we can do afterwards if that's something that the board would like us to look into.
Thank you.
Any more questions for those first 2 slides? We're going to go to slide 3, but for those first 2 slides.
I have a question. So in both of approach A and B, we are talking about dispersing the current Beaumont population to 4 different sites. based on geography?
David, do you want to address that?
Yes, it's a combination, as some of the notes say at the bottom. Part of the first scenario, which I think is the one you're on now, was just, if you notice that all 4 sites, the boundaries were not affected, the 4 that we're changing. With this one we did, we just added to them from the Beaumont area. So again, the approach was a little disruption as possible. So the 4 schools are just added areas. If you go to the second one, the B approach, we decided collectively to let's look at maybe making these a little more concise boundaries, thinking about busing or drive distances. So again, only affecting those 4 schools, we shifted it around a little bit. So it was sort of the same criteria, but trying to minimize on bus or drive distance times. And the numbers still we always would check the numbers so they still work out with the school's capacities.
Thank you.
Ready to go on to slide 3?
I'm gonna go back to what Rena was saying. Like, I'm surprised we're looking at Beaubier before we're looking at Honolulu. That doesn't make any sense to me. If we're coming from Beaumont, like Beaumont, Monte Vista, Honolulu, and Foothill, but to put Beaubier in there ahead of Honolulu, I'm confused, so.
David, were you able to hear that question? This is exactly what we need from you tonight, so this is perfect, so keep that coming. David, were you able to hear trustee Smith-Hill?
Yes, we did. And you are right that the Honolulu does also touch or is adjacent to that, as well as other schools as well. So it's not that we just looked at those schools that are touching the boundary of Beaumont. We could have just as well, like you said, not change Beaubier and change Honolulu, but you got to look also at where, again, in relation to the schools are. If you want us to again look at that, we can. It just that these were the 4 we chose that touched Beaumont that we felt we could make the proper adjustments to. And Beaubier is really just a little bit of area we're adding to or moving. And it also was, again, we're looking at the school resident counts in each of these and making sure they all work and match up. And those were just the 4 we decided to focus on the most.
So I think that, can I go?
Please.
I'm gonna talk about this Beaubier thing. I understand where Beaubier's boundaries are, but that's not where the school is.
That's right.
The school sits over by me, near Mission Meadows and Alamosa. It's nowhere near Beaumont at all. So to say we're gonna take kids from up at Beaumont and bring them all the way down over here, like, I understand, well, we're looking at this boundary and that's Beaumont, but the school is not anywhere near that. It is so far away from Beaumont.
And when you look at the cluster maps, there's actually quite a few students that live near Honolulu.
Right.
I don't think there's any students that live that close to Beaubier.
So David, what we're hearing from some of our trustees, I want to ask you this question, because we'd like to bring it back for a vote in December. Would you have time to overlay a map that perhaps substitutes Beaubier, that amount of Beaubier for Honolulu?
Yeah, I should be able to look at that. We could, I don't know if you want to discuss now when you would need that by ahead of the board meeting, but yes, I should be able to do a scenario like that.
And I can attest to this because I live near Monte Vista, which means I'm near Honolulu, which means I'm near Beaumont. It's like a 2-minute drive from Monte Vista to Beaumont, and it's probably a 3 or 4 minute drive from Beaumont to Honolulu. So it just makes much more sense geographically and to minimize the impact on these families to look at
And
that.
it's a good 20 minutes to get from Beaumont to Beaubier.
Yeah.
So this is excellent feedback. So is the rest of the board comfortable with that we could bring back another overlay that would give you yet one more choice?
That and maybe show the heat map of where the Beaumont families are
We
located.
can
So that
absolutely do that.
I mean, we have that data. We want to minimize the impact on the families and not make their transportation a nightmare through the hardest, most congested part of town. And additionally, I thought we wanted to also look at some of the information in the long range facilities master plan that we understand we're not pushing capacity at a site. You know, we've completed that report and we have amazing information there that needs to be fed to this decision so that we don't end up with some unintended consequences of placing too many students or too many cars or, you know, the things.
Can I say something? Permission to say something. So I'm thinking of highways, South Santa Fe. I don't want families with obstructions when they don't have to navigate crossing. People drive like maniacs on South Santa Fe. So I want us to consider, roads. I don't, you know, I just consider that. And
Major thoroughfares you're talking about.
yeah, that and thinking about these sites, though, Foothill Oak and Maryland and Monte Vista, not Monte Vista, Hanalei, are newer sites, right? So, no, not Monte Vista, Hanalei, are newer sites. And I would think that it'd be a good opportunity to have more kids at that school, because I don't think we'd have as many interruptions with, I don't know, things breaking.
That's what I meant by
Yeah.
long-range facilities information.
Things breaking, but yeah, just think about how much traffic there is in the heart of Vista, by Vista Academy, by City Hall.
Well, and
then-
also on the, sorry.
And then we'll consider that when you guys are looking at what's better. I know we have to streamline things for busing. That's another important consideration, proximity and how we can maximize one route to stop at one school, then go to the next school and the next school. So that's what I wanted to say.
So I'm even questioning Maryland being all this, because Maryland's so far away
Yeah.
too. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head
I
around
agree.
like who pulled these schools up and said, here's where we go. But my question right now is, when we did this to Olive, we let the families go to the school. That was convenient for them and what they wanted to do. We didn't say you live here and here's where you're going to go. We had nights at Grapevine and Maryland and any school that the Olive people were gonna go, and they came and they listened what the schools were gonna offer, and then the parents had to choose. Are we not doing that at all?
We would, and I was part of that process, so I absolutely remember, and I was in those meetings. And so what we're talking about tonight, and obviously in December, when we make the adjustments for the feedback we're getting from you, this is just establishing the boundaries. They would still have the option to transfer, and that's exactly what happened. So those transfers would still be open, and actually Dr. Loescher and I had already had those conversations with parents, that regardless of what these boundaries end up being, they would still have that option to transfer. And that is exactly what happened with all of
Well, I also question the distance from Maryland to, like,
Yeah.
I agree, Maryland and Bovier.
Yeah.
Way out there.
it. So David, not to be defensive, but maybe you could provide them some of your thinking, why your team put on the chart Maryland and Bovier.
Well, I look at it also the geography too. And again, I don't want to, please don't, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to your comments. And frankly, you know, I don't live in the district, so I don't know exact traffic patterns and congestions. And that's why we have Amy and Sean were helping as well. I just looked at the geography of where Hanalei is. I'll just be honest. And I looked at the distance to, let's say, the far end of Beaumont's boundary. That's a long distance compared to just looking at those new orange and red areas to Bobbier and Maryland. I could do, you know, through Google Maps, check distances and times, and maybe, again, maybe it appears that it's closer, but maybe you're right that traffic time would be longer, but distance wise, I'm just gonna be honest, it didn't make sense to me. If I go ahead and and I'm just thinking ahead here, if I take Hanalei's boundary and now I take part of Beaumont boundary, I almost have to take the whole thing. or because there's just, unless I go and I dip into Breeze Hill boundary, and I take part of that top part there to make it look better. It's gonna look, Honolulu's already has kind of that V or U shape to it. And now if I dip into Beaumont, it's also gonna be, it might not, I'll be honest, as pleasing to the eye, and the distance and the time to get to Honolulu from parts of that Beaumont area might actually be longer. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
But David, you could come back.
Yes,
December
yes,
with a proposal and the board can deliberate on that.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we're good.
I just wanted to share a realization I had, which is redistricting Beaumont students to Beaubier is basically keeping them at Beaumont, because that's where Beaubier students will be housed for 2 years while there is construction at the Beaubier site starting next school year.
We
So
haven't decided that though.
we did.
No, we did not. No, we just decided to, we identified that we were gonna, we need to identify swing site, but we did not vote on the Beaumont issue. Because if we did, it wouldn't have been fair that trustee Smithfield was not here and not able to comment and.
No, we
have
took
any-
a vote.
We took,
It's
we
in the
voted.
minutes.
Not on the motion was about identifying a split we had the option was to either take the kids and move them to, several schools.
So
It was,
I'm gonna
We can,
stop
we
you
can talk
guys.
about it next meeting, but it's not agenda.
no, I'm just saying, no, we're clarifying what's in the minutes, so it is agenda.
No, we're not on the minutes right now.
But
Right
I'm
now, we're
just saying-
talking about the boundaries, the
Well, I'm saying that
proposed
we
boundaries.
did not identify Beaumont, that was the one.
So let's get back to this, which is discussing what the board wants the gentleman to bring back for December.
Yes.
That's where we're at. That's what we're discussing right now.
So instead of the boundaries like that, I would like to see, and I can look this up, school to school site, like, so how far is it actually from Beaumont to Honolulu, and how far from door to door? Not from where the border starts to where the other border starts. So from door to door, because I think once we do that, we're gonna see it only makes sense to bring in a Honolulu and not have Beaubier in there.
And I think that's a Sean question, because that would be something transportation would understand from, right? I'm not sure that's a demography question.
It could be a
Well, if they're
demographic
giving
question.
us these maps for boundaries.
Yeah.
Then it would be his, for his, and Sean knows where Beaubier sits, and he knows where Beaumont sits, and he knows where Honolulu is.
Yeah, we could do some scenarios. We could take the
I
student.
mean, like, I can pull up the miles.
Yeah.
And drive it, but I've done it for a lot of years.
Now, there is one, just for the purpose of the conversation, there is one more map. Probably not an option, but we probably should go over it. So I'm gonna hand it back to the team. So you can go over the last map.
All right. So I do have option C, and this was taking a little more of a district approach. And there are several maps in here and several scenarios were run to try and figure out how might this look if we took an approach that was similar to other districts, was to try to align your middle school, your high school, and your elementary school clusters in such a way where they would articulate and matriculate through. And in looking at that particular item, the clearest map to me of all of them is the map on your right-hand side of this presentation. I also wanted to point out, and I failed to do this up front, there are PDF items that go with this that are full page one sheets that are a little bit easier to read than the presentation, although this is on the screen. But when we start to look at this sort of level of what it would look like in terms of that depth of realigning the district around that matriculation structure, we end up with a few things that we discuss here on slide 11, which is really what occurs to the district if we do that, and the result that we found, if we can advance to slide 11, thanks. The result we found is that it really takes the district both immediately and long-term out of balance very quickly. And that's best demonstrated, I believe, on slide 12, where you will see you have groups of schools that are way outside of the scope of operational parameters as being extraordinarily high. Those are marked in orange. Then you have a grouping of schools where suddenly the numbers dwindle dramatically and we're way under the capacity of operating that school with any level of operational efficiency. Now, operational efficiency being defined not just in terms of staffing, but also in terms of learning what we can offer students. We're not able to offer everything we want to offer all of our students at every school site. So we did attempt this option with our demographer, and the result was this imbalance occurred. The only way we were able to look at possibly addressing that imbalance would be at a more grand level, looking at across the district, realigning where our high school boundaries, middle school boundaries were. And that felt outside of the scope of a school consolidation discussion. So we thought we'd bring it back to the board. And our suggestion would be, if that's a conversation to have, that would be a much broader conversation that was there. So were the three options as we explored.
So just concluding, what we're hearing from the board is we absolutely want to bring some more scenarios back that introduces Onalate into the conversation. With that, we want to bring back some information specific to door-to-door distances. That's what I'm hearing. And we're also want some heat map of kind of where students live. And I believe we can deliver on that. David, are those items you believe you could deliver on?
Yes, yes.
And I have one more, going back to the middle schools. I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm probably gonna get my head bit off by my colleagues, but this looks so unbalanced, the middle school approach, having all the middle schools on the west side of the district. What about moving Madison over to Rancho Minerva? What do my colleagues think about that? Because that would then geographically would balance it out.
Move all those people from Madison over to Rancho Minerva would cost us, and we wouldn't be able to do it, transportation, because we'd have to get them over there across town. I mean, like, if you look at the Rancho Minerva numbers, there's this many kids that live in that area, but only this tiny bit that goes.
So I
just don't think.
One of the things that's impressing me is I met with Jimmy Figueroa yesterday. For those of you who don't know who he is, he's the director of Operation Hope. And his story is pretty unique. He dropped out of high school and Latino kid, first generation in Oceanside, dropped out of high school, got involved with the gangs, and he's really a walking miracle. I mean, today he's a lawyer and he's, director of Operation Hope. He's an amazing, amazing person. And when I told him what we did with Rancho Minerva with those kids that are a lot like him, the same demographic, he said if he had to go all the way across town to Oceanside when he was in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, he said he would have dropped out.
But that's what we do to those kids now that live in the middle of the city.
I'm gonna stop you guys because this conversation is about boundaries, not taking a school, picking it up and putting it on another site.
What just seems
existing boundaries for the middle schools, which will be Roosevelt and Madison.
It's so inequitable.
So, as far as next steps and board directions, is there anything else to add that was not repeated or read or summarized by Dr. Doyle?
I did have, I think, a request for the middle schools, which would be similarly, let's look at some heat map data. My thinking is that in this red and blue, high school boundary alignment, have we overlaid traffic patterns and geography so that maybe it makes more sense to draw that line somewhere else, like to still have those two areas, but given the location of Rancho Minerva and where the Rancho Minerva families currently commute from, can we minimize hardship by taking a logistical look at what those boundaries.
Yeah, we could absolutely overlay traffic patterns, geography, and heat maps, and we'll work with David and his team to come up with something that's viable that you can look at.
All right, I think that concludes that committee report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. We really appreciate it. Don't feel like you have to stay.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you.
All right, and that You guys need a quick break. 7 minutes bathroom break, be back at 29 at 8:29.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, Penny made these for you guys. Penny. Yeah, remember the last, the absorbing, she made these for you.
Oh, then I need to-
She even got a little note for you.
I know, that's so cute.
I'm not supposed to talk to you.
Buenas tardes. Ahorita estamos tomando un pequeño descanso y vamos a comenzar. Es, oh,
trustees. It is our monthly Measure L report. And we're going to cover several items, including a brief overview of financials, a consent item later on in the agenda for item 16C regarding an annual insurance policy that asks for $2,500 or $2,250. And then we're going to just briefly give you our regular update. We have a guest from GAFCON who's going to report on our progress regarding PLA projects and just a high level overview of those metrics. And then we're going to dive this deep into what is a ton of work that is being done by the team at Bernard's regarding preparing for Beaubier. This is not intended to be an in-depth review of that because there are so many moving parts. It's not just the construction, it's the decommissioning, it's the planning, it's DSA reporting. This is to give you just an overview of what's happening so that way you know it as we go through. So quickly on financials as we go through, you're going to notice on these, which we always regard jokingly as the little tiny numbers on a big piece of paper, which means we don't necessarily want you to pay as much attention to them. This actually represents about a $62 million change over last month. This is an increase that is anticipated. Roughly 5.7 million is for Vista High School on those two wonderful buildings going up. 300,000 for Beaubier regarding all of the project work being done in preparation of that site. About $150,000 towards Vista Magnet Middle School's facades improvement. These are less than anticipated for the bills that have come in. Sometimes that happens as bills lag behind and move up through various project schedules, but we are on track for anticipated spending. As we look at slide number 3, this is a quick high-level overview as the annual administrative costs for an arbitrage contract for insurance policy. You're required to have these for your general obligation bonds. This is an annual item. It is item 16C on consent this evening. Again, amount is $2,250 and just an annual sort of administrative item that we go through. In terms of looking ahead or looking at our numbers regarding PLA projects, we have a guest from GAFCON to give you a brief report as to how we're doing on those numbers as established by the board.
Good evening, board. Thanks for the presentation. We have Vista Magnet Middle School. As you can see, the tier 1 local hire goal of 5%. We're definitely meeting and exceeding that local hire goal, which is great. We want to make sure we get those local residents out there working on the project. And of course, the tier 2 goal is a little bit low for 20%, about 17.5. But if you add them together, it's about 32%, which we're meeting and exceeding that goal. So it's one of the better PLA projects that we manage, and it does a really good job with making sure that the local residents have opportunities to work on the projects.
I think my nose in this briefly, I have to say this, Trustee Smithfield and I visit the RPD project often, and this middle school project often, and we actually ran into a student who graduated from our high schools 2 years prior. This is almost a brand new graduate on the project with all this gear on.
Nice.
Super excited about the job.
Yeah,
And
he went
that's
to
what this is
school with
about.
Matt's son and he
Yeah.
stopped and.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's perfect. No, that's great. We like to hear those stories.
That's exactly.
We like to hear those stories. That's why it's in the PLA that we manage. So we want to make sure we get those graduates and of course, veterans too. We have some veterans that are out there, not too many. We want to get more out there. We're starting to get a little bit more veteran information and more people out there, but it's nice that we have workers that have graduated and have opportunity to work on the schools that they in the district. So it makes it, the PLA is benefiting the workers, which is the main thing.
Awesome.
And then we have the apprentice ratio is 25.08%. So it also gets those apprentices out there so we can get those pre-apprentices and apprentices out there to make sure they go through the periods and the levels to become the journeyman and take over for the trades and information like that. Any questions from the board members?
No, I don't have any. You guys? No, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. These do represent improved numbers for the district, and that is important. Also, it's important to note as we look from place to place at different PLAs across the county, this project is doing very well. We want to thank Tom Smalls and the team out there at Vista Magnet Middle School who take apprenticeship incredibly serious and take the time out to make sure that the apprentices are getting what they need from the trades and from the general contractor. So thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Grace. Grace has been working deeply with Bernard's and John Atherton, who will be with us to give us a high-level overview of sort of the steps that are happening, some of the maps that you'll be coming your way on subsequent meetings, so that way you have that.
But the design team meets frequently. We want to thank Trustee Smithfield for joining us for meetings that go at times ad nauseum and have actually doubled in length at time. I did say that, you did not. And we have a broad-based terms of support of people providing input from across the district and out of the district on these items, and that is all coordinated through Grace. So Grace, I turn this over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ludford. So we are so excited that our district staff, our amazing teachers, getting input from everyone, the students. And basically we are in the throes of DSA review. And while they're reviewing it, we internally are also doing page turns, circling back with everybody to double check and triple check. Are we on top of making sure that we're meeting the goals of the standards that we're trying to move towards standardization? Because we all know that Beauvier is going to be one of the elementary schools that is going to set the standard for all of us to streamline things, to be more efficient. So I'm just going to take the first part of, obviously you can see we're anticipating DSA approval in February, but then there's a lot of behind the scenes work. So it may not seem like, hey, what's going on right now, right? Why is there such a lag? There's not a lag. There's still work going behind the scenes of making sure that we're preparing to go out to bid. So what's going to happen right now is John Atherton with Menards, he's going to come up, and if you could join us. He's going to, it's like basically, the baton, right? The baton gets passed, because during this time, why don't you explain to our amazing board members and superintendent and everyone at large, what you do during this time as a contractor with pre-construction?
Okay, thank you, members of the board, Dr. Doyle. During this time, what we really do is we assist the architect while it's in the DSA process. We're going through and vetting the numbers on the estimates. We're also looking at constructability to make sure that everything's constructible. We're also working closely to make sure that we have all the bid packages so that we get the best bid coverage at the end of the day. And that's what our real goal is doing the outreach to be able to work with the local labor market here in North County, especially within the city limits of Vista, to make sure that we're reaching the contractors that are local, build the interest up so that everybody's aware this project's going to be coming out. That's pretty much it. So.
And then construction.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so here's a flyer. Here's the flyer. Yeah, sorry. Here was one of our. I'll talk about that. Here's one of our outreach events that took place, and we invited members of the subcontractor community, the local unions. We also invited Hire Heroes, Veterans of Business Network, Workshop for Warriors. Basically, we've tried the entire gambit of trying to reach out into the entire labor market here in San Diego County to make sure that we didn't leave any stone unturned for small business, disabled veterans, emerging business. And any all local businesses here in North County to make sure that they were all invited to this event. Women owned. Okay, here's the preliminary procurement schedule. This is something that we're continually monitoring, as we all know that the supply chain. I think we're entering into the new norm now. There has been some retraction on some of the supply issues where things are starting to pick up, or starting to get them faster. HVAC and electrical, for some reason, I think because a lot of people haven't returned back to work, that supply chain is pretty stagnant as it is, at least on all the projects that we recently bid. So this is what we're tracking as of, I think, September is when we updated this. But we're going to continue to monitor that throughout the process to make sure that we don't have any lags in construction. And if we have to develop some kind of early procurement strategy to make sure we have all the equipment on time, that the children are all in the seats when they're supposed to be. Oh, this is a construction sequencing, kind of shows our methodology of how we're gonna go around the site to work the site. Our laydown area, our first phase is the mobilization and demolition of the existing site, doing the clearing, grubbing. And then on the second phase is the building construction, where you actually see the building start to come out of the ground. And then on the far right-hand side over there, kind of shows you some of the work sequencing in a little bit more detail, a high level view, but more of the detail of the construction process.
Take them just a little bit, just for the purpose of them understanding this one. Tell them where you're going to start and how you're going to go around it.
Well, on the the right-hand side, we'll start with the parking lots and start doing the clear and grub. That way it allows us to be able to do, the demolition portion of it. It allows us to have more area to be able to work and do the separation for a lot of the materials on site. We have to separate everything before it gets transported to the correct, recycling facilities. So we'll start on that side, and then as we're working the buildings, we'll go in a clockwise manner, starting with the admin building, but we'll start with the retaining wall closest to the neighbors. That way we stabilize that slope and we take care of that first, so that we do act as good neighbors to the people that are there and continue to make sure that we don't have any dust going into people's backyards. There's no noise complaints, and work with the local population of residents there. And basically what we'll do, Dr. Doyle, is we work ourselves out from once the buildings go in a clockwise manner. We work our way out from the site work, and then that far side that goes down to the kindergarten area, we work our way out through that asphalt that way and allow for parking and teachers to be able to come back and start stocking the rooms and getting ready for our new school year.
All right.
Thank you.
Brief but powerful. You'll hear many of these reports from us over the next year and a half.
All right, so we have a consent item later on. What else? Feedback from the board?
Good job.
None? All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent calendar.
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I wanted to pull the minutes.
Do we need a second so then we can open up for discussion?
Yeah, we need a second.
One second.
Thank you.
And then I would like to pull, item 11A, the minutes from last meeting.
All right, can I get, so
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 11A.
so moved?
Second.
Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Morocco. All in favor of approving the minutes minus 11A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Okay, 11A.
I'd like, can we find what the exact motion was, Chris, of, when we talked about Bovier and, identifying what to do with the kids during I would like to know what the exact wording is.
There's a board report from the next day that says approved discussion items, Bovier interim housing, option 3 to utilize Beaumont campus as a swing site during the 2-year construction phase.
But I would like to see in the minutes where the actual motion was. What the wording of the motion was, because I don't remember that being the wording of the motion. The motion was just identifying that we were gonna move the kids to a swing site to be identified later.
On page 112,
I don't have
there is that item.
What is it? What is it?
Of your board book.
I don't have a board book. I'm on.
Okay, so in the minutes, it is the second to last page of the minutes, the top, item B. Bovier Elementary interim housing discussion and action.
Okay.
Member Vargas motions to approve option 3, which from the presentation was using as the swing
That was
site.
not the presentation. That was not, that was not, Dr. Doyle was the one who brought up Beaumont. It was not written anywhere. It was not in the presentation. That was an oral thing that Dr. Doyle brought up.
No, there's option 3.
I don't think that was a decision that should have been made without all of the trustees present.
We had quorum, so
It
we
doesn't-
can't hold up the business of the
But
board.
we did hold up a couple of things because trustee Smithfield is not here. We did do that. So we already set a precedent at that very meeting.
We had a 3-1 vote in favor of using Bovier as a swing site, and that was the Bovier swing site being Beaumont.
So that was not the motion.
That was the motion, trustee Morocco. We understood it that way. So,
well, it doesn't matter what you understood. It matters what the exact motion was, the wording of it. You can understand that maybe it had that, but if it was not worded in the motion that we were doing that, let's see, I want to find the presentation.
I have it right here.
Okay. What was it?
I'm gonna put it up on the screen so you can all see it.
Swing site. It
Can you,
doesn't say Beaumont anywhere.
can you read that sentence, Dr. Bill?
Which sentence?
Swing site?
Right here. To move the entire site population, students and staff to a recently vacated facility appropriate to the grade span.
What facility have you recently or about to recently vacated?
That was the conversation.
It was the conversation, but that wasn't the motion. That was not the motion. The motion was to approve the swing, that was one of the options. The options were, there was the one to, distribute students to different schools. There was the
Well,
options.
there are the options right here.
Right,
Option 1.
Right.
Interim disbursement.
right,
Option 2.
right,
Temporary site. Option 3. Swing site.
right. But there was no swing site identified in the motion.
The swing site is the only site that was.
It was the only
Providing
site
option.
available.
I fully understood I was voting for Beaumont.
I did not.
You voted
You
no,
voted no.
but the
You
three
did
of us
no.
voted yes with
Mr.
full
Vargas, did you
understanding it was
understand
for
it to be
Beaumont.
I did.
President, did you
Yes, I
understand?
did.
Then we can move on.
Yeah. All right,
I make a motion to approve item 11A.
Second.
moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas to approve item 11A. All in favor of approving the minutes, 11A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Any
was in
abstention?
here, so I think I have to abstain.
Okay. Sure. All right, the motion carries 4-0
Well, yeah, with one abstention.
with one abstention from trustee Smithfield.
Did you get that, Chris?
Yes.
4 with 1 abstention.
All right, so now we are on number 17. Sorry, let's go track here.
Page number in the board book,
17A.
page 43. You're looking on the long agenda.
Yeah.
It's discuss and take action on DLI middle school location.
Yes.
We're prepared as soon as the board.
All right.
I was kind of.
Hold on, I'm just.
There's no rush. We are ready when you're ready. Just take your time.
It's been a long.
I don't want the board to feel rushed. We're-
17A, discuss and take action on DLI middle school location.
Not even 9 o'clock yet.
Hey, come on up.
All right.
Next contestant on the
Come on
price.
up, guys. We're gonna do, our
Come on down.
DLI.
Hold on, that's fine.
Let me
Thanks
share
for
my
the rundown.
slide.
Gonna cost-
Let the cheering begin. Okay, so as they're coming forward, I do want to thank, Dr. Shigela and Rafael Olavide for the great work they've done with an entire group of people. They represent an entire group. I truly appreciate the hard work and dedication that both of you have done to get us here. Tonight, we do have before you an action item. The reason we have before you an action item is because we do need to move forward with communication and the implementation aspect of that. Is why we would like you to consider this for action tonight, not a record, not feedback. It's really clear that we need this in order for us to communicate to our parents, for which we promised they would know by December. So with that, I'm gonna hand it off to Dr. Shigela. Take it away.
So then knowing 3 weeks before we promised them they would know,
That would be amazing.
that would absolutely fantastic. All right, go for it. So a quick review of last month, so we won't, these are the exact same slides you've seen before. It's just as level setting to make sure that we're on the same page before we go into the action item. So we spent a lot of time speaking with grapevine families. We had standing room only at back to school night for a special meeting with the teachers, with Rafa, with Myrna, with myself. I actually stood out on the side because outside there wasn't enough room for me in the room. To talk about the program and the parents' number one concern, where are we going to middle school? And so we did put out a survey, which we talked about the results. And then we met, and it's a really important meeting, I feel, is we asked them for input on the survey, but then we met with them and we said back to them what we thought we heard in the survey and allowed them the chance to provide other information or to correct us if we were wrong. Matt, you can go ahead and move on. So the big 4 themes that came out is location matters to families where we put programs. And so specifically with the 5th grade DLI Grapevine families, they're worried about, they have siblings, carpools, cousins, other relatives who are already at Madison. And so they were worried, if we don't go to Madison, then how do we get our kids, and will you be busing them somewhere? It did seem okay if it was at one of the magnets, particularly Vita, based on proximity to Grapevine, that they thought they could do 2 schools, but they couldn't do like a Madison and a Roosevelt type situation. Staffing, these parents are excited. Rafa and Matt made a promise to them 5 years ago about this opportunity. They are all in on it, and they want to make sure wherever they go to middle school, that the principal and the teachers and the staff are excited and that they can speak Spanish. They really want that experience. With that experience, they don't want to lose their middle school experience. So they don't want one of their 3 classes to be an elective class. They want the middle school experience. They want to take band. They want to be in art. They want to do the things that middle schoolers get to do. And then I skipped it, but in general, they want a safe school. They're worried about middle school in general. So these are tangential things that came up, and we honor, and well, middle school is the hardest 3 years of their life. So they're right on track. Just real quick, just a review of the heat maps of where the kids live. Matt did ask us to review this week specific, and it was too late to put into the board presentation, so you don't see it. But he did ask for heat maps of specifically the DLI kids from Grapevine, from Alamosa, and from Honolulu. And they match up exactly with the overall population maps, which probably makes sense. So Matt, you want to just go ahead and flip through. And then Rafa, you're gonna do a little bit of program update, make sure we're recruiting kids and allowing new kids to join into the DLI program.
Absolutely. So we're looking at, as you look at the numbers, we broke them up into different sites. So you look at 24-25, the projection is to have our 57 students coming from Grapevine into middle school, and then that number is going to almost triple by the next year. But it's important that we break it down by site, and that's a very important piece of the conversation. Knowing that in 26-27 we will have close to 230 students in the program. But it's important that we break it down just so you see, who is going where. Ways to identify not only who can join the program in 6th grade, which is obviously the 57 students that we promised that we were going to move forward with middle school, but as well as students who are in 5th grade currently and are not at Grapevine Elementary. So it could be students from the charter schools in the neighborhood, as well as students who come from maybe other districts into ours, where we can offer that. And then you see that, we have no assessment needed. I will explain this a little bit further. We also want to reach out to families of students who are currently in our district, newcomers, students who are 0 to 12. Currently, we have 20 newcomers, 5th graders in our schools. This would be a very good conversation to have next year with them, and a possibility to attract them into our DLI program. We look at the via assessment. I will explain this in a second, but also we're looking at students who could enter next year into our program. We're looking at students enrolling in 24-25, and a possibility to include them in our program. So for that, we have a couple of things. One, we have done this intake type of approach with our newcomers in general, but we have also seen in the County of San Diego different ways to assess students, assess their skills, whether this is in Spanish or English, and they are going to be new to the program. So we want to make sure that we have the right tools for students who are interested in joining dual language immersion in 6th grade, to have the best way to ensure that they are right, that they can have successful experience. So we're looking at a language proficiency assessment. Typically, it's going to be given in 2 languages. We can also provide information regarding anything that is a standardized assessment, anything that is the CASP assessment, anything that could be an LPAC assessment, things of that nature that, that could help us. And then, of course, we want to know from them, their families, background, what we call typology of the student. And the typology of the student is, where the student is coming from. The student is a newcomer coming from Spanish-speaking country, and the level of education that they receive in that country before joining us. So that is the way that we want to attract more students into our DLI middle school experience. And lastly, how are we going to be doing this? We have done it before. We have done lots of forums, informational meetings. Once we know where we're going, we have the flyers ready. We have the information ready to have the ongoing conversations that we have had at Grapevine with the families, as well as families of students who are in the neighborhood. They are in DLI programs, but they don't have a continuation into middle school. So we want to have those informational meetings with them. We want to meet also with the families of students who are newcomers today in 5th grade elementary schools in Vista, and have an opportunity to speak with them. So having these informational meetings to let them know that this is an opportunity that they could have. And of course, when 24-25 comes in, have an opportunity to bring the newcomers or students who are new to the district to share with them this learning opportunity in middle school. How are we going to be doing that? We believe we have a very good communication system in the district. So the community updates, website, social media. We have the opportunity to share with the San Diego County of Education Dual Language Network. We're part of that. And of course, any information that we have done in the past to recruit families that we have done for the last 5-6 years.
We put together a timeline. So obviously we're racing against the clock for these middle school families and the information and getting the soon to be middle school families that are in 5th grade at Grapevine. So we thought, what does it look like for the projection for this first group of kids to graduate high school? Because then we have to quickly backwards map that is nearly as soon as they walk onto their middle school campus, we need to begin that high school discussion placement. Is it 1 high school? Is it 2? Is it all 3? That needs to happen very quickly. And so I just wanted to do a visual for everyone with the timeline to keep this on our mind of time goes very fast. And as these kids get older, their lives actually speed up. And so with that in mind, we have brought, and forgive me, I got the agenda topic number wrong. This is 17A, I believe. I know, new guy. So there's 3 what we would believe reasonable options at this point for middle school option for everyone. And of course, discussion point with an option 4 is always provided for you. So the first idea is there could be a single DLI middle school program. And our thought is, especially based with the 5th graders at Grapevine, that would be housed at Madison. It seemed to make sense. What could make even more sense is the option to think about should probably be, if you look at a map, and we talked a lot about maps in here tonight and geography. If we look at a map, it may make sense as well to think about having it at 2 middle schools. So Alamosa is right next door to Roosevelt, and Grapevine and their families are entrenched sort of in that Madison geography already. So that may make sense. And so if option 2 is really saying Madison year 1, house the current 5th graders at Grapevine, and the 4th graders at Alamosa, then the following year build out at Roosevelt. And then option 3 could be, with the board's desire, how big do we want DLI to go? How many locations and options do we want there to be? And so the thought was start with Madison, increase to Roosevelt that year too, and then do foresee and want the magnet schools to be part of that DLI pathway. And so that 25 or that 26, 27, that lines up with the timeline of when kids would be going off to high school. So everything's trying to put it into contextual boxes as a system to make sense of progression and growth.
With that, we're gonna hand it back to the board for feedback. And ultimately,
I'm ready to make a motion if you guys are.
No, well, let's talk about discussion, or let's start with you. It's your turn.
I'm option 3 all the way. I mean, I think by the time, and I would almost want to make the magnets when we go to the magnet schools, do 2 magnet schools if it's possible. That way we're giving, because by then Honolulu kids should be getting in there. They can go to Vista Magnet Middle or Vita. It's going to allow more options for Grapevine, more options for Alamosa Park. And so I think it's very, very prudent, really great idea. Let's get it done now and just phase out the rollouts because we know we're going to need them. And we might want to even come back in the not too distant future and talk about high school. So we have it all mapped out and all planned. So that's my thinking.
Trustee Kelly, what is your opinion on the options?
I also like option 3, because I fully support having a DLI program that's available to everybody in the community where they want to access their school.
Trustee Smithville?
so they won't be able to join it going into middle school. They would have had to have been in it before unless it was one of the groups. So we put it at all the middle schools. It's not like any child entering middle school can say, oh, I'm going to middle school, I'm going to be in the DLI program. That won't be offered to them. It'll only be if they're already in it or if they fit in the newcomers, like Rafa said tonight. So, yeah, just wanted to clear that up. Okay, I have a couple questions. I think, okay, so one of my concerns, because I kind of saw this as we were rolling out the elementary school, we kind of we did it really fast, boom, boom, boom. And when we got to number 3, we realized we had to take a step back. So my concern with 3 would be a few things. Can we get the staffing for 3 schools of people who can speak Spanish and are credentialed in single subjects and be class? My guess would be that would be a hard haul to do. And then if it's gonna be thinned out and scattered, because that's what's gonna happen, because it's still just this group, it will be less effective. For sure, it will be. I kind of thought we kind of started that way. And yes, we need to get this whole pathway ASAP figured out. Like, this is way too late to be doing this, but so I don't know, I would go, my first thing is 2, because I've seen the unintended consequences that we had to face and figure out going along, but you guys would know, I'm gonna just, you guys, I'll go with the majority.
Trustee Vargas?
We're thinking alike. So I'm looking at the 2026 number, 226. If we divide that by 3, that means that if they equally get distributed among Madison, Roosevelt, and a 3rd magnet school, that's 75. And so like I'm concerned about the density. I think, if we can have more, we talk about economies of skill. So we have more students that went through our DLI pathway elementary. That's going to be better because then we can concentrate resources. The teachers, the administrators that's going to support those teachers. But at the same time, like, when it comes to this secondary and middle school, like the content is like kindergarten, I think it's easier for us, or at least easier for me, because like it's more of the language that I'm more used to. When it comes to the middle school, like that academic vocabulary in Spanish, like I was not embedded in that, and I did not study that, and so it's going to take me much more time to become comfortable with that language. And so I would lean in with option one, option two. That doesn't mean we don't have to do it or we can't do it at the magnet schools, but let's get it right so that, then we can build upon that.
Well, okay, let me ask my colleagues something.
I haven't,
Okay, sorry.
I haven't.
Sorry, I
given my
forgot. I'm sorry.
perspective.
Go ahead.
You all have. Okay, so I'm thinking, option two, because just knowing, the way other school districts do it, they don't spread it all out across the district, especially when we already have our magnets and branding and such. As a teacher with the B clad, right? I know the importance of having an administrator who understands it. So do we have a plethora of bilingual administrators who know about teaching two-way immersion?
No.
That's really important to have a leader, pedagogically speaking, of course, and also have done it themselves to be an evaluator and a coach for teachers. And I mean, as of now, we have one of our school sites that doesn't have a bilingual administrator. And so I'm thinking that we have to concentrate on our manpower or our human resources and recruiting to be able to facilitate having administrators or leaders across the district at the middle school. So I wouldn't want to expand it more than two middle schools. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents. And as a person who's taught it, and also my niece is right now in one at Hawthorne Intermediate, and they don't have Hawthorne School District has a STEM school. They have another, arts and magnet, and then they have a dual immersion school. They don't have it all spread out all the way around. So I'm thinking they have high outcomes too. They're one of the outlier districts in the state of California. So
Backing up on what she said, because I thought that's where we're gonna go when, in the beginning, when we talked about it, was eventually, and I know we're not ready to do that, we would make the one, not that it would be DLI, because I think I learned this from you. It would have another thing in DLI would be part of it,
Yes.
which is, I think is our ultimate goal. It's not gonna be to have it at all the high schools and everything. It's gonna be, like you said, with Hawthorne, one concentrated.
they're not a high school district, so they stop it.
But I'm just saying it as they go. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
my future thinking was from the beginning when we started to talk.
Well, and that can happen. We just
But
need
I know it's
immediate,
gonna
right?
take time, but in the meantime, you heard it.
Well, I have a question then. Are we looking at expanding this program to more elementary schools?
Maybe eventually, but it's not in the near future. We gotta get it right and get it bigger and now.
I get it, but it's, I know,
But
I
by the
understand.
time we would do that, hopefully we would have the one place to send them to.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what trustee Vargas is saying about the concentration, but realize time goes by very quickly, as Dr. Shigela said. And yeah, we might have a few lean years where it's spread out. Isn't that kind of a good thing to let us kind of work out the kinks a little bit on a smaller class size or,
Because this is what I found, going through this, because this was all learning experience for me. I didn't grow up in that world, so I would ask Cipriano a lot, But what I do know is, it has to be so methodical, like Martha was saying, the people who supervise the teachers who were there. And they're just not out there by the droves to be able to do that successfully. So we ran into a little thing early on when we opened our second one. Going into it, we're like, whoa, this is a whole different set of issues that we didn't anticipate. When you go too fast, you go too big, and you go too thin, then it's not gonna be effective.
And another question is what trustee Smithfield brought up too. Is there a path for students that transfer into one of these middle schools to actually begin doing the DLI program?
Yep.
Is that?
That's part of the slide deck, but go ahead, Rob.
Absolutely, yeah, there's a pathway for that as well.
Okay.
If they fit the criteria.
No, I mean, they're just
English
standard
speaking.
English speaking, they don't have any any experience with any other language than English, single?
That's a great question. And as a matter of fact, anyone who would be interested in joining the DLI program, they have not had previous experience in dual language immersion. It is important that we go into an assessment piece of the ones that I just mentioned, just to ensure that this is the right decision that is being made. Know that, the dual language at that level, we're looking not just at speaking the language, but it's as the academic language that the students have been going through in two languages for 6 years. So that is it's a very, very important decision,
Well,
to make.
I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be possible to have an entry level DLI program just for those students that are only English speaking. So let's say we have students that did not go to, did not go to Grapevine or Alamos Park or Honolulu because maybe their families didn't know about it and they hear about it. What a great program. I would love my child to do that. And we have an entry pathway for them at one
I
of
think
those.
I think what she's asking, we actually do have, and that's the Spanish classes. And some Spanish classes are offered at some of our middle and high
Well,
schools.
it's not as intensive as to immersion, though. That's the only thing.
Well, but it's only like 1 to 2 classes in Espanol. It's not all day. It's
Is that-
one content area.
Yeah, we're looking at math and we're looking at social
Yeah.
studies being the two core classes exclusively in
In
Espanol.
Spanish. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So it wouldn't be all day.
And then it'd be like their advisory type thing, like Madison has a really strong advisory program.
Right.
So these kids, their third touch in Spanish would be that class. And then Roosevelt has a similar thing that we would have to sort of massage a little bit, I think.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
But you're not retiring like till 2050 then, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Say that again.
You're not retiring till like 2050?
I know, I saw that. I was like, okay.
What's your time?
Bring it on, right? Bring it on.
Bring it up.
You gotta get all these kids graduated.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And then maybe we'll decide.
Thank you.
I mean, I know this isn't what you were exactly saying, but two moms, when we spoke with them last time at Grapevine, did bring up the concern of sort of like thinning out. Will kids who haven't been in DLI be allowed to be in classes with our kids if their Spanish isn't up to par? Like, will they hold us back? And so I know you're talking more like an entry type thing, but that's even on the parents' mind of what happens to our protected little like high functioning group.
Or maybe, or a medial class or something, and then that, I don't know.
Well, and a big part of the program is not just learning how to speak in Spanish, it's being bicultural, right? And so the bicultural component comes from all of the activities that the kids and the staff and the community does together. So that is not like just by osmosis that anyone can just enter. Now, Spanish for native speakers, like Pedro took that at Roosevelt, right? We have those classes. And we do have language classes at Vista Magnet Middle School, and there are opportunities for kids at the middle school
Yeah,
to
they
take
can take a foreign
Spanish,
language.
right? But
In the high school too.
see, the power of dual immersion comes from having to navigate two languages from a very early stage, and cognitively your brain just becomes like the superpower of a brain. And so it's just if you give someone Spanish in middle school, it's not to say that they can't drive, but it's not the same program. It's not the same thing that's happening in the brain. So it's just distinct.
Okay. I was all going on option 3, but it sounds like option 2 is the way, so I'm gonna let somebody else make the motion. I'll go along with whatever you guys want.
All right. Can I get a motion for an option from?
I'm making motion to approve option, is it 2 or B? 2.
2. So moved.
And I second.
Moved by trustee Vargas, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving option 2 to create 2 middle school DLI programs beginning with Madison Middle School in 2024-25 and followed by Roosevelt Middle School in 2025-26. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0.
That was a historic vote.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They're not going anywhere because they're for the.
Oh.
Yeah, next.
All right.
Let's do it.
Next on the agenda. They say hand sanitizer, they say sanitizer.
Sanitizer, that's a good word.
They say portmanteau.
You just pointed your word.
Yeah.
Should we go get it?
Next on the agenda.
Did you get it?
We did, would you like it?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I bought comfortable shoes tonight. Yeah, thank you.
Alright, 17B, discuss and take action on magnet school admission criteria adjustments regarding school consolidation. I'm losing my voice, so I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah,
I have to say that Dr. Shigela has been busy.
right.
He's been working hard. So we appreciate your hard work on both of these items. So thank you so
Don't
much.
be burning him out.
I know, he's working hard.
Quick recap, on September 26th, we spent a lot of time together and you took action on two options. One of them was as it relates to magnet school admissions and school consolidation to maintain the Rancho Minerva attendance area for the lottery temporarily for this school year. You also asked for the Vista Unified Magnet Steering Committee to go back and think about brainstorm. Are there any wild ideas that could possibly impact TK through 4 kids at Beaumont and current 6 or 7 students at Rancho Minerva in terms of access to the magnet schools? And so this presentation is really focusing around that third option. And I highlighted on purpose USD Magnet Steering Committee because the options that are going to be presented to you tonight are not from me. They're not from Matt. They're not from Julie. They literally came from the committee, just like you asked in this option. As a quick little review about the Magnet Steering Committee, the big focus this year is to provide for this very topic. And in the past, they've done a lot of work around admissions and suggestions and different aspects. So real quick, who is represented? I think it's really important to be aware of that when we go into looking at the options. So it would make sense, I think, that the Vista Unified Magnet Steering Committee would have magnet school teachers, parents, 2 students. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
I don't see any unions on here. Are the unions represented there?
I don't know if there's specifically a union member on there. There's,
The original structure had like double dip of
Yeah.
a teacher representative would also be a VTA member.
I couldn't name that person
And
for you.
same for special
CSEA.
education parent.
Yeah.
Is there, but I don't see any classified employees on here.
So this is really focusing on teachers, students, parents, and administrators. The big aspect is that representatives from Beaumont, from Rancho Minerva, from Madison, and Roosevelt. So the touches that are really affected were represented. There's a DLAC parent there, district special ed parent as a rep, and then district administration as well. And these are just dates, not too interesting, but they're there for the record. And then when on September 26th, when we spent a lot of time together, we did that exact same presentation with the committee. Because if they're going to be offering up options, we need to make sure there's a fundamental understanding of what magnet schools are, where they came from, how they operate in Vista Unified, and that darn lottery process, which is sort of nebulous and confusing sometimes if you're not associated with it. And especially with having guests that are not a part of magnet schools, we really need to make sure that there is a deep understanding. So we spent a lot of design work around, again, the task that we were assigned by you. And we want to make sure that everyone is aware of scale and numbers. So what are the numbers of people we're actually talking about in children? So here's enrollment as of the end of October for Beaumont by grade level and Rancho Minerva. Of course, we don't have 5th grade on there and we don't have 8th grade because those are not the groups of people we're talking about. And then we also wanted to make sure we were looking at vacancies, because essentially we were talking about transfers in to Casita, Vapa, Vista Magnet, and Vita. And you'll see in some places there is expected spots and in others. So we didn't want anyone to be disillusioned that we were talking about grandiose holes and gaps in enrollment. We were talking about a finite amount, and Mandy was in these meetings, so we're hoping that we made that clear to everyone as we went. Vita did take a smaller 6th grade class this year as the discussions around school consolidation started going in the spring as we were admitting kids. We purposely held off on taking a bigger class so there would be more room for absorption from Rancho Minerva, because we knew at some point, in some fashion, whatever's voted on, in some fashion, we would need to be able to absorb kids. And so we do have a room for there. We looked at what could be flex. So what are the design opportunities that we had? They could look at priority allocations, there's the out of district, there's vacancies, there's the buckets, there's filling vacancies, trying to spur the thoughts of what can we actually look at. And we spent 2 nights actually looking at things. So on the 17th, so we had 2 meetings since you gave us direction on what to do. 2 meetings were held. First one was really a lot of level setting. And then we began in the design process, we call it flaring, where you just kind of like, you're all over the place. And the committee went all over the place. We have 4 pages of notes from Post-its and things that made sense, made no sense, but it's great because people were getting ideas out. They're wrestling with the information and the task at hand. And we put that all together electronically. And then we went over it at the next meeting. Matt, if you could flip. And so on October 30th is where we actually came to the suggestions from the group. So we did a lot of small group work. We did a lot of sharing out, and we developed some ideas. There were about 6 ideas. And of those 6 or 7 ideas, there were 2 that were very, very popular with the group, like standalone popular. And so what we came up with, and Matt, if you could change the topic number so you have that right too. Yeah, that's my fault. I apologize. So the 2 options that the committee came up with, the highest number of votes and consensus was first to essentially create a temporary priority group for TK through 4 kids at Beaumont and current 6th through 7th graders at Rancho Minerva Middle School, to give them their own priority group for opportunities into those transfer positions. The word current, I think, is very important because we know people sometimes get excited about priority groups. And so we wouldn't want people to think, well, maybe if I transfer my kid into Beaumont before Christmas, then they could be like, it's the current kids, or we're looking to serve the kids who are affected and displaced by the consolidation of their school. So I think that's important for us all to be on the same page with as we look at these. And then another thought that the committee came up with, again, this isn't Julie, this isn't Matt, this isn't Eric, this isn't Cherie, this isn't even Mandy. This is the group agreeing on and voting on this idea of pausing the current policy of filling vacancies at the 4 schools, the 4 magnet schools. So remember, traditionally, either the date's gone back and forth, but either at Labor Day or at Seabed State, magnet schools have not been allowed to enroll kids to not disrupt the other schools. For this year's policy, it was changed to ensure that we continue filling spots to offer as many spots as possible as we go. And so the committee is saying, stop doing this new policy. And they're suggesting that we do that so that there will be more room for transfers in the next lottery. That's all I got for you.
It's a great recap. All
Well,
right.
thank you. You're welcome. Appreciate that.
All right. Who do we start with last? All right, Trustee Kelly, questions, comments?
I would be in favor of options 1 and 2. They're not an either or package.
Correct.
I would like to point out. And the committee has spoken. I'm happy to support those ideas.
Trustee Smithfield,
What do you think?
I mean, you've worked this life, you know.
Yeah,
this life.
I think if I were you, I would definitely do number 1. And my only hesitation of sitting in the job as a magnet principal is I feel like when we make policies, we're making promises to families. And so there are several hundred kids I'll use Vita as an example, on a wait list, who are hoping that they will get a call because they've been told, they've been calling all fall. And so, that's just my personal take, but that is how you would open more spots for those transfers. Yeah, and so we took in 2 new kids on Monday.
Wait, what do you mean, how you would open more spots?
So if we stopped taking kids right now off the wait list, as people move to Texas and Idaho and stuff.
Right.
If we stopped taking them, then that would create increased vacancies for.
Yes. Okay.
So I just have, one thought with this. I just remember when we closed our other schools, we didn't save them anything. We didn't say, okay, because we're closing your school and we're sending you over here, but you get special treatment. Because like you're saying, like the parents, the kids that have been waiting and doing it right and the whole thing. And it's not like we're saying we're closing your school, you have nowhere to go. We're putting them in very good schools with very good people, and the same thing. We never gave these other students any of this at all. So whatever, that's just my own pet peeve.
I hear you on that. I don't know what the exact process looked like last time. This time we asked families from the schools what they wanted and what they perceived as, desirable and fair. We want to do right, just because we did wrong in the past doesn't mean we keep doing wrong. I think this board wants to
I'm
do
not
right.
saying what we did in the past was wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they had to go on the list and in the lottery like every other student did.
Mhm.
And then still go to their new school if their name didn't get picked. So and I had voiced this in the very beginning, like, we never did this before and it was fine. We didn't give them special treatment. We have a lot of kids in our district that would like to be given a priority for many reasons and very valid reasons that they should be able to go there. And we don't. So wasn't saying it was wrong.
I'd just like to point out that these are 2 very, very highly disadvantaged schools with a lot of transportation issues. And I think as part of equity, I don't think when we did this, when they consolidated the other schools, I'm not so sure that equity was a board policy back then either. So
Yeah, but I don't know if I look at this as equity. I look at this as.
well, no, I'm explaining that for these students that do not have, that need to actually, their lifeline is that they get into the school that is closest geographically to them, that they can get to.
But.
And if
to
that's a
use
magnet
that,
school.
That you can't, because every year I talk kids that live right next door to Vita. Right next door to Vita.
I know.
And they had to go through the same system.
I
that
know.
everybody else. And as far as the disadvantaged schools, so were the other ones that we closed. And so those kids need it, and they were right next door to Vita. Olive was on Vita's campus, for crying out loud. Like, I don't know, I just think our magnet schools, we all know how it gets during that time. And there have been families that live right next door, that like, oh, I want my kid to go to Vita, and no, you can't, because you weren't picked, so.
Trustee Vargas?
For option 1, we make it a priority for 1 academic year.
That's what we're suggesting.
But
That's
there's
what
not
they
enough
suggested.
room between, at least for the 7th graders, there's not enough room for 8th grade and Vita and EMS.
For next year's 8th graders, there's some room.
But not for all those ones.
Oh,
that-
no.
So what happens then? Like, if everybody's a priority, then like, there's a priority wait list?
So there would have to be a lottery for the priority buckets.
So like maybe so many percent. of
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure about Vista Magnet, but I would assume they're very close in the same with Vita, so I can speak to Vita at least, is we tend to get all the priorities at the older grades in, even if it's over like the number, because we know people will eventually attrition out with deployments and moving and
But
stuff.
that's part of the option too, like trying to stop. Okay. That makes sense.
All right, trustee Morocco?
I think I'm in favor of both options. You know, the committee spoke. Just lost it. There it is. You know, I mean, I get what you're saying, Rosemary, but we also are closing 2 schools. And I think that the least that we can do for the disruption of these families is do this, and maybe we're setting a new precedent going forward. Yeah, these school consolidations, looks like we're gonna have several more in the upcoming years. And at the same time, I think maybe it is an argument, doing this might be an argument for, we know that there's gonna be declining student enrollment for many years to come. I think we need to do, for consolidations, we need to get on a schedule so that we aren't completely displacing students, that we can give them enough time to matriculate out of the schools so that this won't even be an issue going forward.
I don't know if we have any other schools that we're looking at that right now.
Well, I think we should be
According to
looking
our
at them.
long-range Facilities.
Yeah, if we look at the long range facilities master plan, we've got schools that are gonna be.
I'm gonna bring y'all back
Thank
to
you.
option 1 and 2.
Well, I'm just bringing that up is that this
Agreed.
could be, we wouldn't have to do this again, because I think this is because we got behind the 8 ball with these school consolidations, and we've got 2. And so, you know, we're making up for that a little bit. But if we can have a long range plan on going forward, then this won't even be, we won't need to do this. It wouldn't, then we would just do it the right way. People would matriculate out, they would go where they go, and everything would be fair.
So option 1 and
Option
2.
2. Oh, both.
Option 1 and 2.
1 and 2, sorry.
And then I am in agreement with options 1 and 2 as well. That's what I would
Make a
support.
motion to approve options 1 and 2.
I second.
Moved by trustee Vargas and seconded by trustee Kelly to accept
Don't be mad.
options number 1 and number 2. Any more discussion? All in favor of approving options 1 and 2, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, the motion
Nay.
carries 4-1. With,
2.
I'm sorry?
It's for 1 and 2.
No. She's saying it carries 4, and 1 against.
Oh, I thought you said for option 1. I'm sorry.
The motion carries 4-1 with trustee Smithfield
I thought you
voting
said for
against
option 1.
this motion.
And you voted no.
I did vote no.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got it.
Okay, next on the,
There's 4 options.
I think you can sit down, Dr.
All right.
Shakira.
All right.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
patience. Good. Okay, next on the agenda is 17 C Transportation Services Route Adjustments, 2023-24.
Dr. Loescher.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quillen. Good evening again to the Board of Trustees. This is a second part of a presentation that began last month. And on this particular presentation, we're coming back with additional information as requested by the board. Really just a quick overview of the message as we go through. We brought back that information. We have some options to look at and to consider, but here's sort of when we look at the 2 months of presentations together, sort of the 4 main messages. Message 1 is our phase 1 hiring strategy for bringing in new bus drivers. That strategy has worked. 43% of bus drivers are new bus drivers to the district. The second sort of thing that we need to really look at as an overview is that things are rapidly changing within this market, both in terms of the number of routes needed, but also in terms of legislatively what needs to happen in order to support these routes. There's new legislation even coming out that's going to be effective going into next year regarding what we can and can't do for special education. So that continues to change along with a variety of other things. The fourth message is that when we present options like this, these are options that are in lieu of additional strategies, and we are working on additional strategies in order to see what we can do to expand and make more flexible our transportation fleet. So the final thing that we will allude to on this is that we do have additional strategies that are in the work. Both Rachel and I have been working closely on what additional staffing strategies could be there, but it's not just a matter of staffing strategies, it's a matter of understanding changes in legislation and what we can do to modernize and change our fleet over. And we will be reporting on that in tomorrow's Friday letter, sort of a preview of some of those items as we look forward. So as we look to slide 2, this is just a quick update of the information that is ongoing provided to you, which is the positions filled, the vacancies, what is needed, what's happening mid-year, what are the general updates for staffing that we're looking at. And you may see some of those items coming back to you in December and in January regarding mid-year augmentations to staffing and looking ahead to next year. However, when we look at option 3, this is the new piece of information that was requested by board. This is our general education staffing route. And what this indicates when we look at it from the perspective of the transportation experts is these are the routes and how they're paired out. Now, what this tells us when we overlay this on maps that are more complex, and those maps look at the amount of time it takes to get places and other things, traffic considerations, the likelihood of there being delays and other things. When we look at this, as we note that our routes are paired at the middle school and elementary school level, and that we have those routes in order and based upon our current school start times, there is not a way to simply take a route and uncouple it from an elementary school and just reallocate it to a high school route without that route becoming late somewhere along the way. So it does impact students somewhere along the way. That's sort of that broad, high-level overview of what this routing sheet demonstrates when we run it through computer models. In addition, we wanted to make sure that this was accessible to the public and share these are the current elementary school impacts and secondary school impacts. We've moved to shuttle routes at Breeze Hill, Grapevine, and Mission Meadows. We have pause routes to Hanalei, Lake, Monte Vista, and the Leadership Academy. For secondary school routes, all secondary school routes where transportation had previously provided are factually impacted. All have moved to shuttle routes, and in some cases, we have paused what would have been additional routes to these items, including several pauses on areas in various parts of town. For example, in Mission Vista, we run different routes from different part of town. They run one route at this time on that shuttle format. So those are factually the impacts that have happened. This really leads us to 3 primary considerations, and these are not considerations that have net gain. Let's put it this another way. This impacts somebody somewhere. No matter what discussion we engage in, each of these options without engaging in other and a phase 2 hiring strategy and fleet management strategy, these impact people, our students and our families. So the first one is a redistribution of routes, pausing some underutilized routes. By underutilized, I'm defining that, not that they're not being used by somebody. But as we saw in previous presentations, some routes do not have high levels of ridership. Looking at those routes, and then we would be looking at moving those routes to other schools. So the advantage is you could increase the total number of students. The challenge is that you would be changing the routes during the year, and we made a commitment to those families by offering it at the beginning of the year. And the additional factors is that we may have unintended consequences to families that have already been counting on that service this year. They may have made their arrangements for the year. When we look at a second option, this is also something that we can discuss, but it has implications. That is looking at the most strict interpretations of Education Code 41850. I did not print out the Education Code. We would ask for an interpretation from legal counsel for that, but that is the one that stipulates that we need to provide special education transportation as legally mandated and looking at what that would be. It also stipulates that we can encourage parents through various incentive models to provide transportation for themselves. Now, what's the advantage here of doing that? You could free additional drivers. That could happen. It's not a guarantee, but it could happen. What are the challenges? Options may be limited to parents and services to specific categories of students. I'm not going to put on my dad hat. I have a child with cerebral palsy who offered and gets transportation services offered. She has a tripping hazard. Many of my friends' families cannot afford the van associated with providing their child this level of services. So even though it might be incentivized, they simply can't afford to do this on their own on a day in, day out basis. The additional factors is that there could be unintended consequences in terms of attendance, having to redistribute your special education services away from the perimeters of the school day, which compacts what you can offer for IEP services for specialized services to support students. You might necessarily be able to guarantee that the kids are there all the time, and you would be informing parents of a change in their IEP mid-year, which means you have to rehold all the IEP meetings in order to do that. So that would be an additional factor for consideration. A third option afforded to us at this moment is we are starting our internal audit with that state expert, starting here on the 14th, and it's going to be going on in a week, is that we await some of those findings from that expert that may have some different interpretations of these matters and different things and different strategies that they can recommend back to us. Now, again, that advantage is it could free additional drivers. The main challenges is that it may not provide immediate relief because it may be incumbent upon changes happening at a state level through the school year. The final additional factor is again is that findings of those audits might also look at things like contracted services and other things that are unknown factors right now. For example, the requirements for special education for the upcoming year. We've always met those as a school district for our drivers. We've always met those legislative changes that are about to happen. But other contract service providers, whose name I won't mention because we don't want to comment on their services offered, but we know many of those contracted service providers do not meet those upcoming legislative requirements for testing, for licensing, and for insurance factors. And we don't know necessarily how those services will be impacted when we're out there. Of course, we always have that option out there of considering what additional things might be options in terms of strategies that we can use in there. Again, we are working on additional strategies that we intend to share with the board in Friday letters and upcoming meetings. Some of those items are negotiable items that have to be discussed, and we can't necessarily talk about those items here. But other parts of those items are looking at how we procure and deal with our fleet. If you recall, we talked about the updating of our fleet. Part of the updating of our fleet is moving to different bus sizes. That's correct. Large buses, just for the sake of simplifying, large buses, medium buses, and small buses. But in addition to this, there's some changes that are out there. And at this moment, we're in the process of attempting to procure our first 6 electric vans that would go for special education. That would be a whole new classification of service that could be offered to our students in a different way. And why electric vans? Well, it not only meets strategic items, for example, within climate action and other items, but electric vans because many of our special education students have sensory processing issues. My daughter would be an example of that. And the electric van is something that is not a diesel or gas unit, a gas unit that allows for them to more comfortably ride and focus on school and at home. So that is a quick overview of the items that are, just a broad overview of where we stand on this. I would put out there, like with a number of subjects that we engage in at the board level, whether it be looking at the difficult items around school consolidation, or this is one of our opening topics. These are not winning scenarios that are being presented. These are not the board wishes that are being presented. These are a lot of staffing realities and market forces that are being discussed, but does not represent the level of service that any of us hope for any of our students.
I'll hand it back to the board president.
Trustee Morocco, questions, comments?
Yeah,
feedback?
yeah, I have a couple. So you're talking about the electric vans. Question is, how many students does that hold? And another question is, are those, do they need to be an actual bus driver to drive those, or can they be somebody that does not have a bus driver's?
Thank you very much, trustee Morocco. Those are two excellent questions. The first is, for the vans, what I have not been articulate in stating is it has to be equipped as a special education van. A van that is a standard van cannot be used for special education service. However, a van that is equipped as a special education van can be used for other services as well. That's the same with a bus. So our buses can be equipped as special ed buses, but you can still use them for other items. That reduces the number of total students that could be on that bus. But in general, what we're looking for in those vans is we have a number of routes that only serve 2 to 3 students. And those vans would be able to serve those 2 to 4 students in that grouping and provide that service.
But I'm wondering, what's the total number of students that it can hold with maximum?
So as not a special ed bus, it's 9 based upon the law and licensing. And that is a license that is not required to be a bus driver license.
So I'm looking at this slide 3, and I'm seeing that there's a route here that we have a shuttle with 8. We could potentially use one of those vans and get for that.
Well, we could potentially use 2 vans of non-bus drivers of what would be trainees. So what we're thinking is while people are training, and this is a discussion we'll go more into depth on a Friday letter, is that you would be able to have 2 vans pick that up. You would then be able to take a bus like that and take the driver and put them on front instead of a small bus that's taking something, a larger bus that could then be repurposed to another route.
I'm not, you lost me.
So the
I'm
bus
saying that if
driver-
there's 8 students, we could just send them, you could free up a bus driver.
That's correct. One bus driver.
Oh,
for
I see
another
what
route.
you're saying. We're talking
Right.
about the same thing. Then you free up that bus
Yeah,
driver to go
correct.
to another
Let me
route.
jump in here real quick. So that is not an item on here. That's an item we're currently working on internally. Because that would require some discussion with our collective bargaining association.
All right.
But you're onto something, but we can't have that conversation here.
I got you.
Yep.
Because there are
I got
some
you.
agreements that need to be made in order for that to be viable.
Okay.
But what we can tell you is Rachel is going down that conversation pathway, and that we hope to bring some information to you in the near future. I think the meta message that Sean's trying to send is what we're proposing is to create a different group of a different type of transportation that could assist us with the smalls, so that small number of kids who get on buses, so that we can free up a larger bus. To be able to
Okay.
provide it. But we have to pause on that for now, only because out of respect to our collective bargaining association, Rachel will take that through a process. And
Okay.
she actually is currently doing it as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Kelly?
On the current slide, Dr. Loescher, the numbers, for example, across the first row, Mission Vista, that's capacity or current usage?
Current usage.
And I thought we had wait lists as well, but those aren't reflected.
Those are not reflected here. The wait list, so the wait list in particular, it only applies at this time to Mission Vista. Wait list is about 30 people. However, the wait list is mostly reflected of people that live across town, awaiting a different bus route to be offered. So the current bus shuttle route runs from just here close to the district office going out. The majority of people on the wait list are people that live in the RBV area some ways away seeking an additional route.
Thanks. And then on option 1, the recommendation to pause some underutilized routes, which routes would those be?
That would be up for discussion in selection based upon usage of what's here.
Well, what in your evaluation, which ones are underutilized?
Well, there's a number underutilized, and the numbers that are reflective show that there is one shuttle route for Rancho Minerva that only holds 11 students.
On the capacity at maximum would be 60, okay. For all of everything, it's like 31 out of 60, 23 out of 60 possible seats.
No, typically, the older the kids get, the fewer the kids you can fit on the bus. So it's not that the bus configuration changes, it's that the size of the kids
So it's
does.
difficult for us to perceive the actual utilization looking at this data.
We can provide you with additional utilization data as well. That was reflected on the previous presentation. I'd be happy to include that.
Yeah. With little ones, they're like 3 to a seat.
Yeah.
And then once they're like in 4th or 5th grade, it's 2 to a seat, I think, because they start to stretch out and. Trustee Smithfield?
I don't have any.
Trustee Vargas?
Well, we don't need to worry about that until the following academic year, right?
Not necessarily unless we choose to make a change now, but again, that would have an implication mid-year of making changes.
Gotcha, okay. And then, Mission Vista, the first AM, what time does that pick up? The first shuttle?
I'd be happy to provide a precise time, but that's just after 7 o'clock at some juncture, and then the second one about 40 minutes later.
And school starts at like
8:30.
Yeah, it's just the time it takes to go to Mission Vista, drop the kids off and then come back.
Oh, I think it defeats the purpose of late start at the high school if they're having to be there.
That's the only way that we can make it happen.
Understand.
Well, it actually gives us the opportunity, the late start actually gives us the opportunity to give the students, more students there. So that's another way to look at it.
Well, no, otherwise they'd be there like in the times when my kids use that shuttle, it's like 6:30 in the morning that they had to be there because the start time of school was back earlier.
Earlier. 5:30.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I have a question, going back to the underutilized shuttle. Going to look at the Grapevine Roosevelt one, when it's 8, are those middle school kids? Or are those, is that en route from Grapevine area, say that neighborhood above Williamson Park, and they're going to Roosevelt?
So for the Great Brown route, so there's 2 separate ones. First, they run an elementary school route for Grapevine, and then it moves over to middle school. The elementary middle school students do not commingle on the bus.
Right. So is it 8 middle schoolers or 8 elementary school students?
I believe it's 8 middle.
Right
school.
here, we're talking about this number, it's 8 middle school.
It's 8 middle school.
It's 8 middle school, but just because that, if I'm following, I believe what we are saying is that even though that particular run is underutilized, we would lose all the great, if we reassigned that green shuttle
Correct.
elsewhere, we would then
They go
stop
together.
having the ability to transport Grapevine students.
They have to go as a unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the traffic analysis is when you look at where the times are, is that we're about 10, depending upon the route, 10 to 15 minutes away from making an additional route. But that's with regular traffic considerations. Heavy traffic consideration multiplies that exponentially. I'll be honest with you, moving into Vista Unified was a little shocking to me that to go from here to RBV sometimes takes me 40 minutes. Because I used to go on my previous assignments from Scripps Ranch to Morris High School in 35 to 40 minutes. So it was a little shocking to me that the traffic pattern, and it is getting worse.
Yeah, okay, so that was my question. So now we have to give you we all had questions, but feedback we didn't give. Right? Feedback we did not give. I think for me, I think perhaps the audit would give us another view that we might not be seeing right now as an organization, and I would say to wait for the audit results. That's what I would say. President. Okay, so you agree with me? Anyone else think that might be a good idea or something different perhaps?
I agree because I don't think that this presentation is giving us the clarity that of what options we have. So maybe some other options will appear.
I agree, because I don't like these options.
Yeah,
I want to see different ones.
all right. Can I get a motion then?
I make a motion that we approve, awaiting the results of the audit, option 3 from this presentation. Oh, and when would that be?
The audit will be conducted starting the 14th. By the time we're done analyzing it, we will be ready to provide a high-level overview to the board in a Friday letter in December. Based upon how many findings they have, it will take us a little time to unpack and decipher, but we will make it a priority to do so.
And then bring it back as an action item in January?
Yep.
So Friday letter information, December, action item, January.
All right, so moved by trustee Kennedy. I'm making your names. All right, moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of approving option 3, which would mean we wait for the results of the audit that would be concluded on the 14th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. All right, next on the agenda is 17D, approve the California School Employees Association, Chapter 389, Sunshine Proposal to the Vista Unified School District for negotiation of reopeners for the 2023-2024 school year.
All right, good evening again. So we have received the CSEA's Sunshine Proposal for reopeners this year, which is our salary, benefits, and 2 additional articles. And so we are looking for board approval on their Sunshine Proposal.
I make a motion that we approve the Sunshine Proposal from CSEA.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 17D, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, 17E, approve the Vista Unified School District Sunshine Proposal to the California School Employees Association, Chapter 389 for negotiation of reopeners of the 2023-2024 school year.
Move to approve.
I second.
Moved by trustee Vargas, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 17E, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, 17F, ratify and approve purchase orders.
I make a motion that we approve 17F.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 17F, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention?
Abstain.
All right, the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention, trustee Morocco. Next is 17G, approve the first reading of the board policy of the uniform complaint procedures.
I make a motion to approve 17G.
Wait,
Unless we want to have a presentation about it.
I'd like a presentation.
hold on up, you're the next.
No, it's not necessarily a presentation. This is description.
I was just gonna reference that there were 2 main updates. The first one was result of a recent FDM audit. We did have an older version of the policy, so Ms. Kelly has updated the original version that we had presented last month, which then coincidentally they released a newer update as a result of the book banning and some of the language that was put into law. And so this reflects those changes about how someone can file a UPC based on not having access to textbooks and instructional materials. So you can actually submit a complaint directly to the SPI, if not to the district.
Oh, that's good that we postponed it.
Yep.
All right. So the difference. See, I had my crystal ball. All right, so with the uniform complaint procedure, this is what is recommended based on the changes to California Ed Code and what the recommendations that CSBA put forward. All right, any further,
I'll second the
I'm
motion.
sorry, CSBA? Yeah, because they give us recommendations. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
All right, so it was moved by trustee Kelly.
Well, kind of. I'll move it again. I move that we approve 17G.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Vargas. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of approving 17G, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that information. It was very pertinent and important. 17H, approve the associated student bodies at middle and high schools participation. Student body government, you mean? Student body government.
Student bodies.
Student body, okay. All right, approve associate student bodies at middle and high schools participation in the Big Give supporting Make-A-Wish for the 2024 event.
Did you explain why it's necessary to have this?
So, what the intent is, they're asking for approval to basically conduct these fundraisers, but to collect the funds and deposit them in an ASB account, and then to issue a check from the ASB account to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And so, because it is essentially a pass through the ASB accounts, the board has to approve that activity so that it's just an acknowledgement that there are funds going through the account that are not going to stay with the ASB clubs.
And for trustee Morocco, we've, Vista Unified has participated in the Big Give with the Make-A-Wish Foundation for many years. As our like contribution to that body and those students. And this is the process for which the district as a whole raises money to make that wish happen. And typically every time we participate in this, we do it for 2 students.
Okay. So do you need a motion? To approve? So moved.
Second. Moved by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 17H, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Next is 17I, approve resolution 24-09 to piggyback on the Downey Unified School District bid 23/24-11 awarded to Apple.
And so the board previously awarded a different piggyback for Apple. The day of the last board meeting, Apple presented to us this contract that's actually with Downey and school districts, and it just worked better because it was within California and it was in school districts. And unfortunately, we weren't aware of it at the time. And so we wanted to actually use this contract because it's better terms for us when purchasing Apple products.
Do we need to rescind the one we previously?
No, we
approved?
just don't use it.
All right, I move we approve the piggyback with Downey Unified School District.
A second.
Moved by trustee Morocco, seconded by trustee Kelly. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving 17I, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Right, 17J, new construction project dedication plaque naming convention.
So this item was an item that was an error on my part as superintendent. And I promise I want to bring it back to the board so that we clarify this and that there is much more clarity around the process. So I have a couple ideas that Dr. Loesch and I will go over. We want to talk about dedication plaque, kind of what that is. We know what that is commemorating a new project. We want to talk about the board member names, the criteria. Currently, the criteria that we've used on our dedication plaques are board members. The board members at the time the project contract was approved at a board meeting. Normally it would be a GMP, but there are some instances of hard bits. There were 2 errors on that. Those errors are already in the process of being rectified, and I've shared that with you in a Friday letter. I wanted to talk about that. Partner names, our current criteria is the general contractor and the architect of record. And then this is actually the purpose for tonight. There is some ambiguity around the superintendent name because I really never got official direction on that. I got unofficial feedback, but not official direction. So the current criteria that we have is that there's none identified, but we have defaulted to the superintendent in charge of oversight during construction. So what you have in front of you today are options. And we'll go with whatever options you're comfortable with. So what should the criteria be for board member names on the dedication plaque? Your option 1 is board members when the project contract was approved with the board, which is the current option that's in place, whether it be a GMP, hard bid, or another form of bidding. Option 2 is board members who served during the construction project. or board members who, at the time the notice of completion was submitted to the project, or the board can individually determine the names of the board members at the will of the board at any point. So that's one consideration tonight that you can think of. The other one is, what would be the naming convention or criteria for superintendent? You want it to be the name of the superintendent when the project contract was approved at the board meeting. So GMP, Heartbreak, et cetera, or the superintendent provided oversight during the construction project, or the superintendent at the notice of completion, or determined by you for each individual project. And then finally, we would like to ask, do you want to give us direction to develop this into a formal structure, whether that be an official board policy? We could revise a board policy to have this written into the board policy, whatever you wish tonight. We can make it an administrative regulation, or we can just have it be a protocol. At this point, it's a protocol. So I'll hand it back. There's a couple discussion points you can make. What would you like to do for the board member criteria? And then we'll go into the superintendent criteria.
All right, I'll start with Trustee Kelly let's discuss the board member.
I pass. I'm very curious to hear from our more seasoned board members. What do you think?
We'll start with the season.
People who have more than one term. What do you think? Because you've been here longer and you've been here through a lot of bond projects.
Trustee Smithfield.
I think we should keep, we're already doing the GMP for the board members. We shouldn't change that. That's the fair thing, it's the right thing. GMP. The GMP, what's that? The,
Guaranteed maximum price is when the contract is passed.
Gotcha.
So it's the point where you're locked in to the project. After that, there is a point of no return.
Yeah, because, you know, like we've had, like Deb she was our, I mean, she did some of the designs in the bathrooms, and to say that her name shouldn't be on there or whatever, so she was here with the GMP, and so I say we leave that. Personally, I think that's the right thing to do with the board.
Trustee Vargas?
I agree with that. With that, we know that bonds, go, anything from 5 to 15 years or so. So like, that gives enough time for different board members to be a part of that, depending on when the GMP is awarded.
Correct.
I tend to agree. I think that it's also important to discuss what the purpose of the plaque is. To me, it seems like it would be a snapshot in history. And so I think that everything, including the superintendent, should be at that date. It should just be a snapshot there, commemorating that this is when there was a vision on this date and it got completed. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I got a suggestion from someone from RBV that thought it would be nice to put the name of the students at the RBV softball, the 3 girls that initiated the construction. Also that, I don't know if you've already placed the order to replace that one, but if you haven't, that could be a nice thing too. Okay, well, but anyway, so, but that's what it seems like to me. It's the purpose, and that's why I kind of am not, I'm not sure if that's the way it's gonna be with every plaque that we do, so we may not wanna make this a policy. We may wanna have the flexibility for, having a plaque that would be something else, maybe not commemorating a single moment in history. Maybe we wanna just honor somebody's, dedication or something. But that's okay.
This plaque is, the discussion is specific to our construction projects, not like, say, someone passed away and we want to honor their legacy. And then maybe the employees are like, this person was so instrumental to this campus, let's dedicate this tree and put a plaque. That's different than new construction.
No, well, what if the person was instrumental to the construction, but they passed away during the process? Kind of thing.
Well, if they were in there in the GMP.
If they're the GMP,
But maybe they came after the GMP.
Then their name wouldn't be on
Okay,
there.
so I hear you say that you agree with the first board members option
And
one.
the superintendent as well.
Well, let's do one at a time because there's 2 different slides. Trustee Kelly,
I agree with option one.
and I concur with that.
Now we can go to the next slide.
Right, the next thing is, the superintendent name criteria options. Start with trustee Vargas.
I feel this one's same thing as the previous one, so whenever the GMP was awarded, whoever was the superintendent at that time.
When the GMP was awarded. All right, trustee Morocco,
I agree.
trustee Kelly,
That's consistent. Have we been doing that? And if,
No, there are only 2 errors that will fix.
so we intended to do that? Or like the errors will, the things we're correcting are fixing, aligning to that policy.
Correct.
Um,
But we didn't want to move on that until we heard from the board.
It seems like what we do for the board should match what we do for the superintendent, whatever.
and I think, well, let me go to trustee Smith.
No, you're going line here for me.
I think like, why not have 2 spots for the superintendent, one for who approved the GMP and one who supervises it, because it's labor intensive. I don't know, just throwing that out there. Labor intensive. Which, you know, you got paid the big bucks for that, but nevertheless, it's not easy.
Board wants.
Is there a date on the plaque?
There is.
What is the date?
The date is the date of the notice of completion, the date that is issued to the contractor stating that that is the date that the project is officially over.
So it could build, I mean, that's confusing, right? Because people who were not serving at the time of completion are named on the plaque. I could see that being confusing.
Okay, there's another option of just putting everybody's name, anybody that was anything between the time of GMP and the time of completion. Yeah.
The font size
font
can
can
be
be really
changed to
tiny.
3-point font.
Have a magnifying glass hanging from it. Yeah, hang a magnifying glass.
All right,
Yeah.
trustee Spenfield.
I don't know, I understand, yeah, keep it the same, the GMP, what's right is right. But at the other hand, says, so I've been going to these meetings and projects every week, and Matt's the one that's seeing the project through. Although I wasn't around for the sports project and the gym, the one I think David too. That are, now I know to see that. Whatever, so. I don't know.
Do we know what other schools do?
Yes.
What do other schools do?
So, to be clear, there's no singular way to do this, but there are various practices that are in place. For board members, typically, most common is GMP. For superintendents, actually depends on the type of project. For example, for new school opens, it's often the superintendent and the deputy superintendent at the time of project and opening the school, because it's a multi-year process that's in place. So that is slightly different. And then for date, it is completely arbitrary. Notice of completion, by the way, you will may recall this in a different thing. Some of our school sites like Foot Oak has a date on it that is not the date that the school opened. The school opened 2 years after the notice of completion, and other cases schools open. So it's really just a matter of creating consistency. But if you look across what different school districts do, GMP is pretty standard for board. Supervising superintendent or executing superintendent, it is fairly common. GMP is not uncommon. It's just fairly common to have it. It's kind of out there and split. And then there are times where the board makes a special consideration when you have huge projects that span, for example, if we're talking about Bobier, that may span multiple superintendent roles to make that happen. And sometimes school boards say when it comes to opening a new school, they have a special consideration for that one case.
Well, no, that wouldn't be good if we do all this blood, sweat and tears and then some stranger that we don't even know gets their name on Belvier. I don't think
Could be a stranger you do, so.
I have a question, and this is just, do we know the length? Okay, so we all know, well, those of us that were on the board, Martha, Cipriano, myself, we know that when we sat down here to do this, when we got bids and things, they were a little fishy and stuff, and the person in charge at the time who brought the people in to do the projects, the superintendent, wasn't around very long, so she really didn't have a whole lot. But do we know how long that was from when we said we're gonna do the sports project? How long that interim was when she was here?
It was very brief. I believe it was June. It was approved June or July.
And then she was gone in like September, October.
September.
So that's also another thing too, because they weren't here to do anything with any of those projects. So I'm gonna let you guys decide. I'll agree.
Trustee Marcus? Superintendent?
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, she did push the bond too, so,
She did.
yeah.
Yeah, so I literally, I get both.
Whatever you like, whatever the board. I'm just happy the buildings are built.
It's just the pool.
It's two structured. It's, yeah, it's the pool and the gym.
Right.
No, the pool, yeah, the pool and
The pool,
and.
the gym, the softball.
Well, pull up your,
It's always
spreadsheet.
the softball
Let's get it
field
right. I think
after
it's
the
two.
fact. Remember, we
It's
had
two.
that big
Pull up your spreadsheet.
controversial meeting?
Yeah.
Remember? About the-
Matt, weren't you the assistant superintendent?
Yeah.
So we can put.
You don't have to do that. Whatever the board.
I mean, whatever you want, I do see it both
think
ways.
it's two.
I
Look at
think
the
it's something
dates.
we should have talked about and discussed.
Ooh, okay, let's narrow it down, the discussion, and what do you guys think the purpose of that is?
And the fact is to say these people had a hand in building this building and the say and the blood, sweat and tears and everything we have to do week after week after week after week.
So it sounds to me like you're talking about the people that actually did the work.
Yeah. And that's why I asked how long she was here, because I get that she did get the bond. You're right,
Yeah.
you're right. That's exactly what we need to talk about. right?
Yeah, and for me, I think, even though she wasn't here for the bulk of like the physical brick and mortar construction, that the work of getting a bond approved, it, and getting, wow, I mean, that, she didn't do it in isolation, but it's not, that's a big task, and without a bond, we have a chunk of coal. So,
Well, I mean, like, that's why I'm saying like
You stand corrected, sir. There were 4, but the first 2 didn't count. But yes, it's the pool and the gym expansion. The softball field was not approved until March 2020.
Which was Matt, right?
Which was Matt.
Yeah. I was correct.
I was correct.
the
Yeah.
pool, the gym expansion,
That's correct. Typically for the fire alarm system, it's wiring, so we just put a label on the wires.
yeah.
What are
And
the
then
dates?
Mission
Let's
Vista
give them the
entry.
dates, so they have the date.
So the gym expansion was board approved in June 2019. The Vista Magnet Pool was also June 2019.
I was right, June.
And both projects were a year in length.
Can we set criteria that it's whoever was in the seat the longer of, like,
I don't know that
the
that's.
total project time? That, you know, I mean, like, if someone was there for 2.5 months and someone else, you know, saw the project through for the next 9.5 months. There's, you know, I'm just offering.
I mean, it is
Have you seen-
incredible. I go into these meetings and they go around the table and all these people that know all this stuff. And I watched Matt meeting after meeting, when they're done, start going through and asking these questions and say, you know, this teacher, you shouldn't be knowing to ask that. So it's a lot, you guys. It is a lot. But then it's
Well, I mean,
what's right.
part of me says that it's not it's not fair to erase somebody just because they weren't here that long. You know, historically, I mean, me again, I'm looking at it historically, that this is a point in history. But I do see that, you know, you want to commemorate the people that also did the hard work. So I think it's be fine to put both their names on it. You know,
Yeah.
but I feel bad because I don't think it's fair to just erase somebody's, you know, whatever you thought of her, but that's not fair. I just kind of think that, so, but I also think it's not fair that Matt did all the work and we're leaving his name off of it, so I'd be fine with putting both their names in.
All right, well, in that case, I will make a motion to add option 5. Or that's option 5. Can I make it option 5 on this slide?
Well, it would actually be option 4, individual projects determined by the board.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Amy, what's Vista Heights CMP, who is the superintendent?
The sports complex or the classroom building?
The classroom building?
Classroom building, September 21.
Okay.
Doyle.
Perfect. So between Vista High School and Boulder, that's already happened. Measure L right there.
Yeah.
So for the purpose of the 2 that we need to talk about, but it'll be determined every single time or just, okay. I just want to talk about these 2.
You already have, your first one's done, option 1. You guys already decided on that.
Yeah.
That's the board members.
No, it's not. Superintendent.
I know, I'm talking about the one above it. You guys have already decided on
Yeah.
this. So part of your motion has to be option 1 for board members. You have 2 components to your option,
Well,
to your.
3.
your
Do we
list.
have a
Haven't
motion
gotten
yet?
the last thing yet.
Okay,
No. So we make one motion. I'd like to make a motion that we do option 1 for board members on our plaques, our construction plaque.
A second.
So you can do individual motions as long as we just capture it in the minutes. So you can just take a motion on the board, get that done, and then we'll do superintendent and then the third.
okay. Any further? Okay, so it was moved by trustee Smithfield, seconded by trustee Kelly,
No.
trustee Morocco. Any further discussion?
Is that third discussion the order of names?
No.
Are we discussing that?
No.
I don't have that on here, but we can talk about it. The original intent, the original process is that it's the order of the board members and their offices that they hold when the GNP was approved. That is what's in place right now.
We're not changing that, to way too much to change.
It's really complex for us. We're trying to do the best we can here.
Your
All in
name's
favor?
first on the few, buddy, don't worry.
Regarding the board member name criteria options, all in favor of approving option 1, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries 5-0. Regarding the superintendent name criteria option, I would like to make a motion to have an option 4 where we determine specific criteria for these 2 projects. That we include Superintendent Kimball and Superintendent Dr. Doyle on it, on the projects for the gym expansion and the pool.
Second.
Okay.
So moved by myself, trustee Alvarado, seconded by trustee Morocco. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of approving option 4 as stated by my aforementioned.
Clarification for everything or just those 2 projects?
those 2
You mentioned
projects.
Those 2 projects.
Just
Okay.
those 2 projects.
And Chris, did you get called out? She called out the 2 projects. Did you get those?
Yeah.
And that's correct, Amy, gym expansion, Mr. Magnetville. And we're just double checking to make sure.
Yeah, not bad for.
Good idea.
Okay, all in favor of approving option 4 as stated by the aforementioned statement about those 2 schools?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries 5-0. And then,
I don't know what's
There's
happening.
one more component.
one more component.
Not that you have to make a decision tonight. We're not rushing you, but we did want to add it.
We haven't made a a go forward policy for other projects and superintendent name criteria? By the vote we just took, I'm just pointing that out.
Right.
We don't have a policy.
That's what this one is. That's what this third one is.
That was.
No, it's not. The
That
third
she-
one is
she does
about,
have-
do we want to write our policy as a policy, a regulation, or a protocol? But for future projects, we have not decided
correct.
what the naming convention for the superintendent is. We
Well,
only
you can do
voted
that now. You're,
on 2 past projects.
But can I get a motion to extend the meeting?
Yeah, I make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:45.
Second.
Moved by trustee Kelly to extend the meeting to 10:45, seconded by trustee Vargas. Trustee Morocco. All in favor of extending the meeting to 10:45, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries to extend the meeting to 10:45. Back to trustee Kelly. So
I
now,
make a motion that we approve option 2 for future superintendent name criteria options.
One second.
I got a motion by trustee Kelly to approve option 2 for the future projects. The naming of the superintendent name criteria options.
Can I have clarification on what that is? Formal administrative regulation?
no, we're on the superintendent slide, the one right here. We're still on the superintendent slide.
Okay. I kind of think that we should be doing that, individual projects personally. I'm kind of for option 4.
So the motion was option 2.
Right, so.
So you seconded, so moved by trustee Kelly, seconded by trustee Morocco, trustee Smithfield. And then the discussion is that you prefer 4. Trustee Vargas?
Aye.
Call for the
She's ready to vote.
Oh, you're ready to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor of approving option 2 for future construction projects, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, the motion carries 4-1 with trustee Morocco voting no.
Almost done, last item. So this item,
You guys.
this item is, we put this on here, Sean and I put this on here because it's probably good to get clarity now. I know we're tired.
Were we allowed to do that? That wasn't actually agendized.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was.
To do the
Naming,
policy?
naming protocol,
Okay.
that's the agenda
The
item,
whole agenda
that's
item.
the whole purpose.
But to 4 o'clock, okay.
I move that we table this discussion, this slide
Okay.
to a further meeting.
Yeah, we don't have to do it tonight,
Second.
I want to postpone this,
Yeah. not a problem,
not table, that's the wrong word. I want to postpone it to a future meeting.
absolutely, we can bring it back to you later,
Second.
it's not necessary.
All right, all in favor of postponing this slide regarding creating a policy, regulation, or protocol to a future meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so motion carries that we will postpone it to a future meeting. And then finally, we are going to have continuation. Nobody's here to talk. I don't think. So next is 19A, proposed 2024 board meeting dates for initial review.
Last page of the book.
Yeah, last page. I haven't not, were they told?
Yeah.
I don't see it. It's okay, they have it in their packet.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
We need to vote on this.
No, you do not. You vote on this in December. We just wanted to make it available, should you have any feedback, so that we can bring the final dates back to you in December for approval.
So, question, I think it's okay, but I'm gonna ask it to make sure. Next year is an election year. And we can't swear people in until, you know what I'm talking about?
Two Fridays
Are we-
after.
So this is okay, we're good?
Yes.
All right,
So Member Smithfield, I worked with our assistant of business services to help me,
Ladies.
Lady Shackelford, and the December 7th date should satisfy the 2 Fridays after an election and allow us to post on the Friday, which I think is the 13th.
we will fulfill first interim deadline of the 15th, so this should be a perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so
I just have one conflict August eighth, but if like that works with the rest of y'all, then the business can.
Yeah, I have a conflict on April 25th, I believe it is.
So we'll discuss it at the next meeting, but, it's good. So you said you have a conflict.
August 8th is SIP and April 25th for Rena.
Yeah, then there's, a small one on June 6th, but it's not a big deal. And then I haven't gone through everything, but I think I'm actually pretty good the rest of the.
I haven't checked mine. Honestly, I haven't.
And you don't have
So
to
I will
discuss
check
tonight,
it.
we just wanted to make sure you saw it before you vote on it in December.
Yeah, I haven't checked mine, but I will do my homework the next couple of weeks.
Well, the board has the ability to have special board meetings at any point, so it's, you're not locked into this, but you are locked into the regular board meeting, because we need to let everyone know.
Okay, so based on that, you guys have those dates, so just, be ready to discuss. When we come back, if it's like non-negotiable and see if we could, the important thing is that we have quorum, but I haven't looked at my schedule, so I'll have that information when I come back. All right, next on the agenda is 19D, request for future board agenda items or other business.
I believe we, related to the upcoming election, we need to discuss if we have a nominee for delegate assembly for CSBA at our next meeting. I saw an email about that. Did you see that as well?
Yes,
Can you say it more clearly than I just said?
we're in staggered terms, but you're up for re-election. If you wish to be nominated, then we can do that in December.
So we'll put that on the agenda for December, an election for CSBA rep.
We've done it before, so we'll research that and get you the correct language.
Any other things?
I had asked for us to be able to review the problems at RBB for the weight room and the art room, the HVAC system. I know that there might be some Measure LL funds for that, so I'm wondering if we can put that on there.
We did, we built that into the presentation that as soon as there's room on the agenda, there was a lot tonight when I met with the board president. And we have that ready. Dr. Loescher's already built that in as your future considerations as a board for the remaining Measure L funds. That's one element.
Okay.
And that would be a presentation as soon as we're able with board president to get that up and running. Which likely will be January, but we were not able to fit it in, and we likely won't be able to fit it in December. So I don't want anyone to be upset with that. It depends how much we can fit in on these agendas. Because it's also
For kids. I mean, right now, I think it's not too bad if the weather cools down. But
well, actually, we have an interim solution. We can talk about
But
later.
that's not on the
can
agenda,
talk
so
about that
we're
later.
not gonna discuss it, but it's gonna be discussed. Yes, the agenda was very long. We trimmed a few things off because I wanted to get you guys home before the Marine Corps birthday begins.
That's right, that's right.
And not yet. We're turning some pumpkin pretty soon. But we will put it on soon. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a request for board item, but Dr. Jill, the follow-up on the memorial for school board member Rich Alderson from Rancho Buena Vista was supposed to go through a committee and not sure what the status of that is.
Yeah, I'll bring it forward at our next meeting.
Okay, anything else?
Bless you.
Are we at 19D yet?
No. We're on the request for future items. All right, so seeing no more, we're on 17. I'm sorry, 19 C, board members, reports or comments.
You have that in two places on your agenda, at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
On purpose, just in case we wanted to add some.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, so seeing that no one else has something.
19D.
Oh, I'm getting there. All right, now we're on 19D, board members reflection.
Okay.
On board meeting.
All right, I would actually like to ask Dr. Doyle to consult with our legal team about that, the minutes and that motion, because my understanding, having been trained as a secretary to do minutes, is that everything has to be in writing. It's not, oh, we discussed it, so we just assume that that's it. It has to be in writing because our minutes are a legal document and everything has to be written. So I would appreciate if you would consult with our legal team about that.
We can do that.
Okay.
And if, you know, it wouldn't be difficult for the board to re-vote on it
Right.
too, so if that's a problem, we will
Well-
absolutely get back to you on it.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll run that through the board president.
All right, any other, reflections? I tried to keep us succinct, because it was gonna be long.
You did good.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Okay.
Martha.
So, all right. Seeing no more reflection, actually, I do have a reflection. Let's get with our teachers and at the high school, and if they are gonna have large amounts, we need to make accommodations. We have some communication with each other, both
We're talking about the
ways,
kids coming in.
The kids,
Yeah,
right?
we've already spoken about that.
so that we could have a backup plan of TV somewhere. But we don't know what we don't know, right? So if we didn't know we were gonna get so many people, but I think we can, learn from today and hopefully come up with some solutions so that
We will.
kids could be present. As part of the process.
Yeah,
Um,
I love our student.
Well, and but we also have them virtually, so we'll, Dr. Olmsted and I will come up with a solution. with our-
I just think, you know, communication would be good, like maybe a spreadsheet, like how many teachers, if you're sending your kids, I don't know, take some kind of survey, do a Google form and be like, how many kids do you think we're gonna?
I think the word's spreading, we're getting quite.
It's getting popular.
Okay.
They wanna come and
Because
see us.
They didn't just
I
come,
know.
they don't just come to
Okay.
meetings, so President Alvarado, they came to the fentanyl town hall, everywhere else. It's super popular.
Well, and it's a reflection on our teachers who that are doing government and instilling in our students that it's
Civics.
important to be part of our community and be involved. All right, so next on the agenda is 19E. Our next regular board meeting is Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, but we do have a special board meeting coming up on December 6th. Okay, so be there, or be square.
What's the topic on that special board meeting?
That will be governance. I adjourned this meeting at 10:38.
Good job.